Chapter 589. In the beginning, I only harmed you, and now I killed your entire family. In less than 10 minutes, the Wei clan and the Southern Prince residents were bathed in blood. Except for some irrelevant and pitiful servants, the rest were massacred by Chu Hen and his men. The entire imperial city was in an unprecedented chaos. The people were fleeing and smoke was everywhere. Roar! Looking at the Southern Prince residence that was dyed red with blood, Chu Hen didn't even blink. Since he came to the Sacred Star Dynasty, he had long been prepared for this. Killing one was a crime, but killing 10,000 was a hero. Moreover, the people he killed were his enemies. This was not a crime, but revenge. Screech! It was also at this moment that the sky in the direction of the royal city also became dark. The world spun, the wind blew, and the clouds surged. Similarly, a peerless flying demonic beast whistled through the air towards them. On the backs of those eagle demonic beasts, there were many guards wearing golden armor and holding sharp spears. "The imperial city's guards are here," Qi Ting shouted. Hai Buwang, Pei Xiao, Dong Guohong, and the others' eyes turned cold. In this way there was no way out. Next, it would be a real battle of life and death. Humph, it's too late now. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows and shouted, "Kill them, and directly attack the imperial city's lair." Roar! The Shi Yan evil dragon let out a domineering roar. Then, with a swoosh sound, it turned into a shadow and rushed out. A terrifying aura poured out. The flying beasts of the imperial city's guards in front all trembled with fear in their eyes. Let the bloody feast begin. Chu Hen's body moved and left Shi Yan's evil dragon's head. As soon as Chu Hen left, the Shi Yan evil dragon was like a wild beast from hell that had broken free from its shackles. Like a meteorite, it plunged into the imperial city's flying beasts. Bang! Like a boulder that had been thrown into a calm lake, the powerful impact directly crushed over a dozen ferocious flying beasts. The golden-armored guards that were riding on them were also injured or killed, and miserable cries could be heard. Roar! Without having to worry about Chu Hen, Shi Yan's evil dragon was completely unrestrained. With a wave of his sharp claws, the flying beasts were torn into two halves. He spat out raging flames, and fireballs fell from the sky like falling stars, dyeing the sky red. Ah! Hurry up and scatter! Don't fight this beast head-on. The imperial guards panicked and hurriedly came up with a countermeasure. Speaking of which, they were really unlucky. As soon as they received news of the enemy attacking the city, they immediately came to support. But who would have thought that as soon as they arrived, the Wei clan and the Southern Prince's estate would already be massacred. Before he could figure out what was going on, this huge creature charged over as if it had a grudge against him. In fact, Shi Yan's evil dragon had been imprisoned by the Heavenly Beast sect for 7 years. He had been suppressing a bellyful of anger and resentment. He originally wanted to flatten the Heavenly Beast sect after coming out, but Dong Guohong instead allied with Chu Hen. In this case, Shi Yan's evil dragon could only vent its 7 years of anger on these royal guards. Shi Yan's evil dragon, who had the strength of a level 7 beast king, quickly attacked the flying beasts of the Sacred Star Dynasty. Immediately after, many experts from the Heavenly Beast sect, Green Willow Manor, and Sword Crafting City also rushed over. Sword shadows swept across the sky, and several heads were sent flying. With a flash of the blade light, 2 figures were cut in half. In the sky and on the ground, the battle was fierce. Various dazzling skills of different colors intertwined and collided, bursting out circles after circles of powerful shockwaves. Reiki energy transformed into bright runes that fluttered like spiritual butterflies, blooming beautifully while quietly harvesting the enemy's lives. Bang! Boom! One after another, the corpses of huge flying beasts fell from the sky, crashing into tall buildings. Blood rained down, and the momentum was magnificent. In just a few blinks of an eye, Chu Hen's people had already gained the absolute advantage. They carried out a massacre along the way, rushing toward the direction of the imperial city in the center of the imperial capital. The imperial guards fought and retreated at the same time. In the end, they could only retreat. They were completely suppressed. The entire city was in chaos. From the Wei clan to the southern prince's mansion, and then to the imperial city, blood flowed unceasingly, and deaths did not stop. The entire imperial city had long since fallen into a great panic. Inside a dark and damp prison, the only light that could be seen was a beam of light that shone in from the high vents. The sturdy prison was filled with an extremely unpleasant moldy smell. Other than some weeds on the ground, there was nothing else that could be seen. Strange, why is it so noisy outside today? A coarse voice echoed in the spacious prison. The one who spoke was a middle-aged man with thick eyebrows and a square mouth. The man's brows emitted an extraordinary heroic aura, but he was dressed in prison clothes, and his hands and feet were locked with heavy iron chains. General of the West Sea, why worry so much? You and I are trapped in prison. Even if the sky outside is turned upside down, it has nothing to do with us. A deep voice came from another prison. In a dark corner, a skinny old man squatted down. His hair was messy, and his face was full of stubble. The prison clothes on his body were even more tattered. It was obvious that he had been here for a long time. Sigh. The middle-aged man with a heroic aura sighed and said, "Principal Jiang is right. Now that both of us have become prisoners, no matter what happens, it has nothing to do with us." "General, do you regret it?" the old man asked casually. "Regret what?" "Of course I regret letting Chu Hen go that day, and suffering today's calamity. To be honest, it would be a lie to say that I don't regret it, but if I had to choose again, I would still do the same thing," Yu Shihai replied. Principal Jiang was slightly surprised, and replied with a hint of mockery. "Eating the emperor's salary, being loyal to the emperor. General, you're this dynasty's heroic general, but you'd actually go against the emperor for a mere rebel? Principal Jiang, why do you have to make fun of me? Didn't you also end up in prison because of him?" "Haha, this old man just wants to hear your reason." Yu Shihai nodded slightly and said, "There are things that a man can do, and things that he can't. Knowing that the emperor is wrong, but still doing it, this is foolish loyalty. That Long Zhan is the descendant of a loyal and good man, so how could the adopted son he took in be a traitor? Actually, you and I both know that Chu Hen's crime is groundless. But Chu Hen still offended his superiors, and chopped off the divine empress's shoulder. Isn't that a crime?" "Humph." Yu Shihai sneered. "The only people I'm loyal to are the previous emperor's heirs, and ever since that old woman came to power, His Majesty the Emperor has lived an extremely difficult life. To be honest, there were many times when I wanted to kill that old woman. Chu Hen chopping off one of her arms can be considered to have helped me and His Majesty the Emperor vent our anger." "Ha ha ha ha." Principal Jiang held his stomach and laughed loudly. He couldn't help but give a thumbs up. "I never would have thought that General would be such a righteous and loyal person. This old man admires you very much, very much." "Ashamed, ashamed." Yu Shihai sighed again and said, "I, Yu Shihai, have lived my life with a clear conscience, with a clear conscience, with a clear conscience. I never thought that I would have to spend the rest of my life in this prison that doesn't see the light of day." Principal Jiang shook his head and sighed. He raised his head and looked at the air vent that was 5 to 6 meters high. It was the only source of light in the entire death prison. In these 2 years, he had almost forgotten about the outside world. Boom! At this moment, the entire prison started shaking violently. It was as if it was enduring a huge impact from a heavy object. At the same time, the noise and commotion outside became more and more chaotic, accompanied by shouts of killing and painful screams. Yu Shihai and Principal Jiang couldn't help but look at each other. They could see the confusion in each other's eyes. One should know that this was the death prison, one of the most heavily guarded places in the Sacred Star Dynasty. Usually, this place was as quiet as an underground palace, and it was impossible for there to be such a ruckus. What was going on today? Was the sky really turned upside down outside? 9 Soul Dragon Seal. Boom! In the next instant, a terrifying shockwave erupted from the outside. The ground shook and the walls collapsed. Dust flew everywhere and ethereal energy flew everywhere. More than a dozen prison guards flew in together with the heavy metal door. A powerful wave of air rushed into the prison, washing away the disgusting moldy smell. Both Principal Jiang and Yu Shihai were shocked, and they stood up involuntarily. Who was it? Then, more than a dozen figures with cold auras rushed in. The leader was tall and handsome, and he exuded a steady aura. You are? Principal Jiang frowned as a look of shock appeared on his face. Junior Long Qingyang greets Principal Jiang. Long Qingyang? Principal Jiang and Yu Shihai were even more shocked. They naturally knew who Long Qingyang was, but they were surprised that he was here. Open the door and invite Principal Jiang and General Shihai out, Long Qingyang said to the person behind him. Yes. The person swiftly found the prison key from one of the prison guards, opened the metal door, and unlocked the handcuffs and shackles on the two. Once the heavy shackles were removed, the two felt an indescribable sense of relief. Then, Principal Jiang hurriedly asked, "What are you doing here?" The capital was simply too dangerous for Long Qingyang and the rest. If they had come all the way here just to save him, Principal Jiang would feel really bad. Leave now. This isn't a place you should be. Long Qingyang smiled, his voice loud and clear. Don't worry, Principal Jiang. The capital has been breached, and the main force is already at the palace gates. What? The capital had been breached? Principal Jiang was shocked, and Yu Shihai's eyes were wide open in disbelief. He had only been in prison for less than 2 days. How could something like this happen? Who did it? Yu Shihai asked. Long Qingyang's eyes narrowed as unconcealable pride appeared on his face. Seeing his expression, Principal Jiang clenched his fist. Could it be? Chapter 590. The capital, the general's mansion. Because of Yu Shihai's imprisonment, the entire mansion was gloomy and silent. From top to bottom, from inside to outside, it was exceptionally cold and cheerless. What should I do? What should I do? In an elegant and secluded room, Yu Qinyu's beautiful face looked pale and haggard. 2 lines of dried tears could still be seen on her delicate cheeks. Because her father, Yu Shihai, was imprisoned, Yu Qinyu was under great pressure both physically and mentally. She tried everything she could to find help. However, those civil and military officials who were brothers with Yu Shihai all turned a blind eye to her. The only one who helped her was the princess, Huang Fuqing. However, just because Huang Fuqing spoke a few words for Yu Shihai, he was removed from his position as the prince regent. Everything seemed weak and powerless. No, I can't let father suffer for me. Yu Qinyu's eyes flashed with a trace of determination. It was she who insisted on letting Chu Hen go. It was she who put a sword on her neck to threaten Yu Shihai. Yu Qinyu immediately made a decision. She would exchange her life for Yu Shihai's. Yu Qinyu hurried out of the gate of the general's mansion. When she stepped onto the street, she found that the entire capital was in a great panic. People were running and fleeing. Fires were burning in the distance. Demonic beasts were fighting each other in the sky. Blood rained down and roars shook the sky. Endless murderous aura filled the sky and covered the earth. Majestic black light blotted out the sky and covered the sun, like a violent storm enveloping the central area of the imperial capital. Uncle, what happened? Yu Qinyu randomly grabbed an old man in his 50s and asked. The old man was still in a state of shock as he replied fearfully, "The sky has been turned upside down, the sky of the imperial city is about to be turned upside down. The Wei family has been killed, the Nan family has also been killed, we can't stay here any longer." What? Yu Qinyu's pretty face paled. Who did it? Chu Hen is back, Chu Hen? When she heard these 2 words, Yu Qinyu's heartstrings, which had not been stirred for a long time, seemed to be gently plucked by an invisible hand. Ripples involuntarily appeared in her gentle eyes. "He's back? He really came back?" Yuchinyu raised her eyebrows and hurriedly ran towards the direction of the imperial city without saying a word. Waterside pavilions and terraces, the scenery was quiet and beautiful. In the depths of the palace, a door that was slightly closed was smashed open. Royal sister. Royal sister, Huang Fuqing, who was reading a scroll, was startled by the sudden noise. She frowned and angrily looked at Huang Fuhao, who was sweating profusely. "In any case, you are the ruler of a country. Can't you behave yourself? Imperial sister, Chu Hen is back, duh." The scroll in Huang Fuqing's hand fell to the ground. She couldn't help but tremble. She stared at the man in disbelief. What did you say?" "Chu Hen is back. The Wei clan and the Nan clan have been annihilated. Now they are attacking the gate of the imperial palace." Huang Fuhao was the ruler of the Sacred Star dynasty. But at this moment, he didn't feel nervous at all. Huang Fuhao didn't seem to worry that the imperial palace would fall, and he would become the ruler of a dead country. Of course, rather than saying that he wasn't worried, it was more accurate to say that he didn't know what to do. Therefore, he came to find Huang Fuqing immediately. When Huang Fuqing heard this, she couldn't help but be stunned. What she had been worrying about these days had finally become a reality. Before Huang Fuhao could say anything, she had already stood up and hurriedly left the room. She directly stepped into the air and flew towards the southern gate of the imperial palace. Soon, Huang Fuqing arrived at the southern gate of the imperial palace. In front of her was an incomparably fierce, chaotic battle. Outside the gate tower, corpses were everywhere and blood was raining down. The imperial city guards clad in golden armor were engaged in a ferocious confrontation with the foreign experts. Under the dusky sky, there was an endless killing momentum. The giant eagle dragged out streams of powerful air currents in the sky, and its sharp claws tore apart the bodies of the imperial guards one by one. Flaming tigers and wolves jumped up and down, spewing flames from their mouth. A sea of fire was rising. The earth armor dragon's attack and defense were extremely strong. Ordinary swords and sabers couldn't even pierce through its defensive armor. They could only wait to be slaughtered. The most shocking thing was the level 7 Beast King with the bloodline of the Beast King, Shi Yen Evil Dragon. Wherever it went, buildings collapsed, and buildings were flattened. Coupled with the thick defense of its stone armor, the Imperial Guards couldn't do anything to it. Kill! Many experts of the Hidden Wind region gathered together and harvested the lives of their enemies. Earth Flow River. Qi Ting let out a loud roar, and his body erupted with a dazzling golden light. Then, a surging mudslide rushed down like a raging sea, instantly burying the dozens of guards in front of him. Hiss hiss. Luo Mingshang held a sword in her hand. A pair of pure white wings appeared on her back. She shuttled through the crowd of enemies like a phantom. The dazzling sword shadows were swift and graceful, killing dozens of people with a single strike. Fu Qin's swordsmanship was also superb. It constantly created illusory afterimages, dazzling the enemy and making them unable to attack. By the time they reacted, it was already too late. A thin red line quickly flowed out of their throat. At this point, no one in the Hidden Wind region dared to be careless. The experts of Swordforge City, Celestial Beast Sect, Green Willow Village, and Su family had no choice but to go all out. Their eyes were bloodshot, and they let the warm blood of their enemies spray on their faces, feeling the joy of the most primitive slaughter. Kill! Long Qingyang and the Long family's guards were revisiting the place. This was where Long Zhan had died in front of them. Driven by hatred, Long Qingyang's killing intent soared. His methods were ruthless and cruel. The imperial city's guards were forced to retreat, using their corpses to create a red path for the people of the Hidden Wind region. Chu Hen stood at the top of a jade building that was nearly 100 meters tall. He looked like a king, quietly looking down at the bloody battlefield that was comparable to Azura hell. Inside the palace, Huang Fuqing looked at the thin and slender figure from afar. His eyes trembled slightly, and there was an indescribable feeling of helplessness and complexity. After not seeing him for 2 years, Chu Hen's temperament had undergone a huge change. Although he was usually a calm person, Huang Fuqing could see a hint of warmth in his eyes. But now, there was not the slightest bit of warmth on Chu Hen's body. There was only a chill that made people's hearts palpitate. How should they face him? Huang Fuqing was at a loss. Phew, the sky has really been turned upside down. Principal Jiang, who was 100 meters away from the battlefield, let out a deep breath and said in a deep tone. Yu Shihai frowned and looked at the chaotic scene in front of him with a solemn expression. This scene was even worse than the battlefield where thousands of soldiers were slaughtering each other. General Shihai, wait! At this moment, Principal Jiang stopped Yu Shihai, who was about to rush forward. Don't go! Yu Shihai's face darkened as he said, even though I hate the cruelty and heartlessness of the imperial power and loathe the divine empress control of the court, I am still the commander-in-chief of the 3 armies of the dynasty. How can I just watch as the imperial city is broken and abandon it? All right. Don't make things difficult for Chu Hen. Principal Jiang shook his head and sighed. You said that if you go now, Chu Hen won't be able to kill you, and if he doesn't kill you, he will be in a dilemma. You should just stay with me. Plus, you and I are still prisoners. Aren't you just asking for trouble by going there? Yu Shihai was speechless. He didn't know what to do. The chaotic battle was going on, and the air was soaring. All kinds of beautiful skills were colliding with each other, bursting out dazzling light patterns. Boom! Right at this moment, the steel-like body of the Shurian evil dragon fiercely hit the tall city wall. In an instant, deep cracks rapidly spread across the city walls. The evil dragon swayed its body and continued to attack. Along with the thunderous sound of rolling stones, the high city wall of the imperial city suddenly collapsed. Dust and smoke were flying everywhere, and rocks were rolling everywhere. As soon as the palace gate was broken, the guards of the imperial city were panicking. The Hidden Wind region's morale was even higher. They swept through everything in their way. The experts and the demonic beast army crossed over the ruins and rushed into the palace. Kill! Go! At the same time, Chu Hen, who was standing on the top of the 100-meter-tall building, moved, leaving a series of vigorous afterimages in the void. His surging momentum stirred up the airflow in all directions. Chu Hen took the lead and flew to the front. His eyes were sharp, stirring up the wind and clouds. Chu Hen is here. Where is the royal old man? Come out. Chapter 591. Chu Hen is here. Where is the old man from the imperial family? A surging aura whizzed past, causing the numerous guards in front of them to tumble to the ground. Chu Hen took the lead. He leaped into the air, leading the experts of the Hidden Wind region over the collapsed city wall and into the imperial palace. Roar! Screech! The color of the sky changed, and the momentum was surging. Figures with powerful auras followed behind Chu Hen, leading the army of demonic beasts into the imperial palace. Outside the battlefield, many people in the imperial city turned pale with fright, and their faces were filled with shock. They did not expect that Chu Hen could enter the imperial palace of the Sacred Star Dynasty so easily. Moreover, the imperial ancestor had not shown up yet. Kill. Enter the Hall of Diligent Government and sit on the throne. Haha, well said. Brothers, let's take turns to sit on the throne. The experts of the Hidden Wind region had an imposing aura. They flew over one after another and quickly occupied the major positions. As the highest authority of the Sacred Star Dynasty, the imperial palace was extraordinarily vast, and the buildings were extremely luxurious and magnificent. The jade palaces were magnificent and majestic. The glazed bricks and the carved railings were made of jade. Rows upon rows of magnificent and luxurious palaces were arranged in an orderly manner. In the center of the imperial palace stood the most magnificent palace. It was 100 zhang high, with green bricks and jade tiles. There were rows of palace pillars, and in front of the door was a flight of stairs that was more than 10 meters high. The space in front of the palace was vast and imposing. This palace was the Great Hall of Diligent Government, the place where all the civil and military officials held court. Huang Fuqing, who was standing on a tall building in the distance, watched Chu Hen lead his people into the imperial palace. She did not know what to do. What should she do? Undeniably, Chu Hen was one of her few friends, or even her only friend. His importance was self-evident. However, her family name was also Huang Fu. She was a member of the imperial family. Suddenly, Huang Fuqing's heart trembled slightly. Why hadn't the imperial ancestor appeared yet? This seemed to be particularly inconsistent with the other party's character of not allowing anyone to violate the dignity of the imperial family. Under normal circumstances, the imperial ancestor would not allow Chu Hen to bring people to kill into the imperial capital. Not only had Chu Hen easily entered the imperial city, but he had also destroyed the Wei clan and the Nan prince residence, and now, he had even charged into the Hall of Diligent Government. To be honest, Huang Fuqing didn't believe that the royal family's defenses were so weak. Especially at this moment, they didn't even see a single expert from the Dark Team, which was even more unreasonable. Could it be? Huang Fuqing's expression suddenly changed. As if he had suddenly realized something, he subconsciously shouted, "Let's go! Hurry up and leave." This familiar voice was like ripples splashing on the calm surface of the water. It was gentle and hurried, like a wisp of a cool breeze entering Chu Hen's ears. Chu Hen subconsciously looked sideways, and there was a faint strange light in those cold and deep eyes. However, in the next second, the spiritual energy in the surroundings suddenly became exceptionally restless. Chu Hen, Long Qingyang, Shilan, and the others who had already arrived in the air above the Hall of Diligent Government were all shocked. Then, they saw countless dazzling silver runes appear on the ground of the enormous square below them. The dazzling silver runes were like endless arcs of lightning, crisscrossing and spreading at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, they had transformed into a giant array that was over 1,000 meters wide. Not good, it's a talisman array. Yan Hanlu was the first to react. Everyone else's expression changed drastically. Damn it! There's actually an ambush. Boom! In an instant, the giant array that spanned 1,000 meters was instantly activated. Thousands of dazzling pillars of light erupted like the sun. A huge silver pillar of light that was 1,000 meters wide soared into the sky. It pierced through the sky with a force that pierced through the heavens and into the thick layers of cloud. A fierce wind rose and the world spun. Before Chu Hen and the others could even react, they were already enveloped by that majestic pillar of light. From afar, it looked as if they had been locked in an incomparably huge golden glass bottle. Nearly a portion of the demonic beasts and humans were spared because they were at the back. However, the ones trapped in the talisman array were the most powerful ones. Chu Hen, Long Qingyang, Luo Mengchang, Yan Hanlu, and many other experts from the Hidden Wind region. Roar! The Sure Yen evil dragon was enraged, and a vast and ferocious aura surged as it slammed into the solid wall of light in front of it like a mountain. Bang! Light splashed everywhere and sparks blossomed. The space shook violently, and layers of ripples appeared on the wall of light like a curtain of water. However, there were no signs of it cracking. The Sure Yen evil dragon, which had the strength of a 7th-level beast king, was actually sent flying. "Let's go up!" Heavenly Beast Sect Master Dong Guahong shouted. Screech! After saying that, a few giant eagles soared into the sky, and with the momentum of crashing into the sky, they charged into the surging black clouds. They moved as fast as lightning, piercing through the wind and breaking through the waves. However, when they were less than a kilometer away from the ground, a few loud boom sounds rang out, and the few giant eagles seemed to have hit an invisible iron plate. They were instantly badly mutilated, and with a few wails, they fell from the sky and smashed into pieces. This? Everyone frowned, and their expressions turned grave. Rumble! 3,000 volts of lightning and a storm came. Immediately after, dazzling golden chains appeared from the black clouds above everyone's heads. The chains had an illusory luster, as if they had been soaked in the holy light of the sun. The sky-piercing chains extended endlessly, intertwining with each other, and then forming a huge heavenly net that enveloped the sky above Chu Hen and the others. A formless pressure surged toward everyone from all directions. The talisman array activated, and the power that intimidated all directions caused this part of the world to become extremely uneasy. Ha 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 ha, I've waited for a long time, everyone! A burst of complacent laughter followed. Then, a dozen figures with extraordinary auras stepped on the air and flashed to the void in front of Chu Hen and the others. Powerful Reiki energy waves were released from these people, and their leader was a middle-aged man in his 30s. He was dressed in a brocade robe, and his eyes were full of frivolity and disdain as he looked at Chu Hen and the others. Zhen Danxian? Long Qingyang's expression changed, and he spat out two cold words. What? Upon hearing this name, quite a few people behind Chu Hen revealed shocked expressions. There were few in the Sacred Star Dynasty who did not know the name Zhen Danxian. This man was the #1 spiritual tattooist in the Sacred Star Dynasty. And seeing this, Huang Fuqing, who was standing in the distance, felt very uneasy. Sure enough, his guess had been confirmed. This trick of waiting for Chu Hen and the others to take the bait. Zhen Danxian, the strongest spiritual tattooist in the Sacred Star Dynasty. At this moment, the situation on Chu Hen's side did not look optimistic. Here is the 5th chapter. Originally, it was supposed to be the 4th chapter, but today is April Fool's Day. Take it as a small surprise for my brothers. This chapter is not counted in the flowers section, but as a thank you to my brothers for your support along the way. Zhen Danxian was mentioned in the previous chapter. He was the first spiritual tattooist in the Sacred Star Dynasty, and his niece, Zhen Yi, had a grudge against the protagonist. That was when the protagonist repaired the phantom bell. The specific chapter was in Chapter 322, God's Favored Girl, and the following 2 chapters. Later, it also appeared in the plot of Beast Ridge, and the specific chapter was Chapter 388, Palm End Tianxian. Brothers, if you have forgotten, you can review the previous chapters. If there is anything you do not understand, you can also leave a message in the book review section, and I will reply after reading it. Yes, the book review section. I can't reply to other channels or website. Chapter 592. Who's that? Zhen Danxian. Outside the Imperial Palace, many families and forces in the Imperial City had already gathered to watch the battle. Looking at the scene in the Imperial Palace from afar, everyone's faces were filled with astonishment. They didn't expect that even Zhen Danxian would participate in this battle. Zhen Danxian has been very close to the Imperial family for the past 2 years. That's right. I also heard that the reason why Zhen Danxian was able to squeeze out many competitors and become the president of the Rune Incantation Association was because of the support of the Imperial family. Sigh. Zhen Danxian is an arrogant and condescending person. Ever since he became the president of the Rune Incantation Association, many Rune Incantation masters were dissatisfied. However, because he has the support of the Imperial family, they can't do anything to him. In the past 2 years, many things had happened in the Imperial City of the Sacred Star Dynasty. One of them was that Zhen Danxian had replaced the former president of the Rune Incantation Association. Although Zhen Danxian's character wasn't very well liked, everyone had to admit that his strength and attainments in rune incantation were unparalleled in the Sacred Star Dynasty. Chu Hen and the others are in trouble now. Yeah, it seems like the Imperial Ancestor is waiting for this moment to catch them all in one go. Boom! Bang! After a fierce collision, they still couldn't break the huge rune array. The people of the Hidden Wind region were somewhat dispirited. The huge rune array with a diameter of 1,000 meters was like a huge golden bottle, directly sealing Chu Hen and the other experts within it. Above their heads, dark clouds surged. Countless illusory golden chains covered the sky, interweaving into a huge net, sealing their way out. At this moment, the people of the Hidden Wind region were like trapped beasts. "You're much calmer than I thought." Zhen Danxian stood proudly in the void with a group of powerful rune incantation masters. His eyes were filled with ridicule as he stared at Chu Hen in front of him. From the beginning, Chu Hen's expression didn't change at all. There wasn't a trace of panic on his face. Because of his calmness, although the people of the Hidden Wind region were slightly anxious, they weren't afraid. This was the first time that Chu Hen had seen Zhen Danxian in person. He had only heard of the other party's name before, and the two of them had not had any direct contact before. However, Chu Hen had several grudges with the other party's niece, Zhen Yi. Back during the Six Nation competition, after the Heaven List battle had ended, Chu Hen had gone to the Inscription Masters Guild to look for someone to repair the damaged illusory spirit bell. Coincidentally, he had met Zhen Yi, who had just returned from the otherworldly spirit sect. Due to Zhen Yi's arrogance and rude words, Chu Hen had to fight with her using the rune technique. After Zhen Yi lost to Chu Hen, she actually made the other two engravers who had agreed to help repair the illusionary spirit bell withdraw. After that, Chu Hen acted as a temporary substitute. With the help of Yu De, Wen Hong, and Zhu Tong, the three engraving masters, they completed the repair of the illusionary spirit bell. As Zhen Yi was a disciple of the otherworldly spirit sect, Chu Hen had met Zhen Yi many times when he had conflicts with the master of the otherworldly spirit sect, Lu Tianxiang. Therefore, Chu Hen was no stranger to Zhen Danxian, the #1 spiritual tattooist in the Saint Star dynasty. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows slightly. There's indeed nothing to panic about. The hearts of the people of the Hidden Wind region lit up. His words immediately gave them a lot of confidence. Oh! Zhen Danxian pretended to be surprised. Humph, pretentious. A white-haired old man standing on the left of Zhen Danxian snorted disdainfully. If you can break this formation, I will write my name Kuang Fu upside down. Kuang Fu? Yan Hanlia's expression changed slightly. Then, he said in a low voice, Chu Hen, be careful. These people are talisman formation masters of the otherworldly spirit sect. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. He was surprised, but not too surprised. It was no secret that Zhen Danxian had a friendship with the elders of the otherworldly spirit sect. It was understandable that he could invite them to help him. The dazzling talisman formation emitted extremely strong energy wave. Swish, swish. Then, figures with piercingly cold auras flashed over from all directions of the imperial palace. These people were dressed in light armor, carrying swords and sabers, and wearing exquisite masks. They landed on the buildings around the square one by one, emitting a cold and sharp aura like that of a wolf. A trace of coldness appeared in Chu Hen's eyes. The masters of the Royal Dark Team had appeared. This meant that the old guy at the back should also come. Buzz. The next moment, a sudden gust of wind attacked this piece of land. The surging dark clouds in the sky became even more restless, and the surging momentum was like a rising tide. The already gloomy sky became even gloomier. Then, a dazzling starlight column penetrated the majestic clouds and fell on the top of the Hall of Diligent Government. Boom! A strong wave of air swept all the way, and together with an unshakable powerful aura, an old man in a gorgeous robe suddenly appeared at the top of the palace. A dozen masked masters of the Royal Dark Team flashed to the sides of the old man, knelt on one knee, and muttered in a low voice, Imperial Ancestor. As soon as the Imperial Ancestor appeared, The aura he emitted could be said to be intimidating. The breath of the peak of the ninth order of the void-breaking realm gives everyone here a feeling like an insurmountable mountain, which is daunting. On the other side, Huang Fu-Qing's pretty face turned pale, and a lot of worry appeared on her beautiful face. The cold and solemn aura filled the sky, and the temperature in the entire imperial palace suddenly dropped. Old man Chu Hen's eyes emitted endless coldness. After 2 years, his hatred for this person did not weaken in the slightest. At that time, he fled all the way to the capital like a stray dog. Now, when they met again, all the hatred accumulated in Chu Hen's heart was like an uncontrollable volcano, which could erupt at any time. The imperial ancestor stared coldly at Chu Hen in the talisman formation, and his cold eyes almost penetrated Chu Hen. "You are a bold traitor. How dare you come here today? You deserve to be punished by death. Old man, it's time to settle the accounts between us." "Humph, you talk nonsense." Zhen Danxian snorted coldly, pointed at Chu Hen and said scornfully, "If you have the ability, come out and say such words." Chu Hen lifted his eyelids and replied coldly, "Today is the grievance between me and the royal family. If you want to live a few more years, immediately take your people and get out of here. Otherwise, your title as the first spiritual tattooist of the Sacred Star Dynasty will not be used until tomorrow." Clatter! The chilling voice was full of a strong threat. It was believed that Chu Hen was the first person who dared to say such words to Zhen Danxian. Ha 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 ha! Zhen Danxian was so angry that he laughed, with killing intent surging between his eyebrows. "I've long heard that you, little bastard, are extremely arrogant. Today I see that it's true. Today, I'll show you the power of my Tiangang reverse kill formation." As soon as Zhen Danxuan's voice fell, more than a dozen spiritual tattooists around him flew out at the same time, and quickly flashed to both sides of the square. Buzz! The next moment, under the leadership of Zhen Danxian, a strong wave of Reiki energy broke out from their bodies one after another. One by one, they made a variety of complicated gestures. In an instant, the spiritual power pervading between heaven and earth was violently agitated. The beautiful formation pattern below erupted with a dazzling light. The talisman was flowing, shining brightly. The masters and demonic beasts of the hidden wind domain, who were trapped in the formation, all felt a great pressure, and the numerous iron chains covering the sky also shook ceaselessly. Clatter! The airflow in the air trembled. Under countless shocked gazes, the chains that were glowing with a golden radiance quickly took shape and turned into many huge golden pythons. Thousands of golden pythons entwined together, like a gathering of horned dragons. Each of them was bright and gorgeous as if they were made of gold. The cold aura of death swept down, and each giant python gave people a strong signal of destruction. Their cold eyes made people's scalps numb and hearts tremble. Looking at the panicked people of the hidden wind domain, Zhen Danxian showed a touch of contempt on his face. In order to set up this Tiangang reverse kill formation, Zhen Danxian invited the help of the spiritual tattooists of the otherworldly spirit sect and arranged millions of upper-grade primordial crystals. This kind of talisman formation was enough to kill all the people brought by Chu Hen. At the thought of how Chu Hen and the others would struggle in the talisman formation, Zhen Danxian felt a burst of excitement in his heart. Those who are too arrogant won't live long in the end. Howl and beg. Buzz! As soon as Zhen Danxuan's words fell, the chaotic sky was extremely furious, as if a heavenly tribulation was coming. Wind and thunder moved together, shaking the sky and earth. Countless golden pythons swooped down, turning into beams of light and shadows, and bombarded the people of the hidden wind domain below with the power of thunder. The violent destructive aura was like a mountain, and the monstrous momentum caused the space to be violently twisted. All the experts of the hidden wind region felt that they were in danger. They all operated their true inner energies to defend themselves. However, the power of the talisman array made their true inner energies circulate very slowly. They couldn't move at all. They could only watch as the golden snakes flew towards them. Bang! At this moment, a violent energy shockwave exploded above the glyph array. Everyone's face changed dramatically, especially Zhen Danxian and the spiritual tattooists of the otherworldly spirit sect. Above the talisman formation, there was a strange black light screen. That light screen was like a huge net that could penetrate through the sky, completely blocking the attacks of the golden pythons in the sky. Under the surging black light, Chu Hen was surrounded by a domineering black light, as if he was in the nine nether fire. With his own strength, he withstood the first round of attack of the Heavenly Gang reverse kill formation. You? Zhen Danxian frowned like two dead silkworms, staring at Li Mu in disbelief. Li Mu was not affected by the talisman formation at all? But everyone in the hidden wind domain was under great pressure from the talisman formation. Their strength, defense, and other major functions were all restricted, but Chu Hen seemed to be fine, and was almost not suppressed in any aspect. Chu Hen looked down at Zhen Danxian in front of him. His lips moved slightly, and a frivolous voice came out. Chapter 593. To be honest, your talisman formation is a complete mess. That frivolous tone of his caused everyone present to be greatly shocked. Inside and outside the imperial palace, everyone looked at Chu Hen with astonishment in their eyes. How could a young man in his 20s say such extremely disdainful and sarcastic words to the number one spiritual tattooist of the dynasty in such a tone? What did you say? Zhen Danxuan's hands trembled unconsciously, and he stared at Chu Hen's calm face. He clearly saw the strong disdain in Chu Hen's eyes. You imitated Shifeng Zi's Heavenly Gang reverse kill formation, didn't you? Chu Hen's tone was still indifferent. Zhen Danxuan's face suddenly turned pale. You? Chu Hen coldly smiled. It's just a pity that I only learned a little bit. I'm very sorry to tell you, the Big Dipper reverse killing formation. I'm even more familiar with it than you are. The weakness of this formation is too obvious. What? As soon as he finished speaking, the overbearing black light behind Chu Hen suddenly rolled up a monstrous momentum, and the strong airflow rose wantonly. Immediately, Chu Hen spread out his arms, and the Yuan Dan in his body operated rapidly. The next moment, a black light beam formed by the chaotic force rose from Chu Hen's body furiously and rushed to the sky with the momentum of breaking the sky. Bang! The horrible energy fiercely collided with each other. The black light beam burst out from Chu Hen's body was like a raging dragon, piercing through the dense shadows of the giant golden pythons and reaching the sky. Rumble! The dark clouds quickly parted, and under the shocked gazes of the crowd, there was another strange talisman formation flickering with holy light behind the parted clouds. This talisman formation was suspended in the sky like a wheel, shining brilliantly and dazzlingly. Boom! With a loud bang, the black pillar of light that pierced through the sky hit the center of the talisman formation with unerring accuracy. It was earth-shattering, and the sky lost its color. The talisman array that was hidden behind the dark clouds directly exploded, shattering into pieces from the impact. Like a scattering firework rain, endless bright and beautiful patterns of light swirled in the air. Buzz buzz. Almost at the same time, the large glyph formation on the ground below quickly stopped operating, and the brilliant silver runes rapidly dimmed. The huge light wall trapping the people of Hidden Wind region also shattered with a bang, turning into ice crystals that scattered in the wind. The Heavenly Dipper reversal killing formation was instantly broken. The experts of the Hidden Wind region suddenly felt the heavy burden on their shoulders disappear, and their bodies and minds felt relaxed. Haha, well done. Young Master Chu Hen is truly capable. I thought this was some kind of impressive talisman formation, but it was so easily broken by young Master Chu. The number one spiritual tattooist of the Saint Star dynasty is just SOSO. The people were excited and the demonic beasts were roaring. The Wind Veil region's morale rose again. On the other hand, the faces of the people from the royal family were getting uglier and uglier. You? Zhen Danxian was completely dumbfounded. His eyes were wide open and he was extremely shocked. The spiritual tattooists of the otherworldly spirit sect who worked together to complete this talisman formation also looked incredulous. What they didn't know was that Chu Hen had already obtained the inheritance of the earth tattooist Shifeng Zi when he was in the jungle of Mount Mang. Although Chu Hen's attainment in the field of spiritual tattooist was only at the first level, but the talisman technique that he had mastered was far superior to Zhen Danxuan's. However, Zhen Danxian thought highly of himself, and imitated Shifeng Zi to arrange this talisman formation. In fact, as soon as this talisman formation was activated, Chu Hen knew that it was the Heavenly Dipper reversal killing formation. Therefore, Chu Hen didn't panic at all, and he soon found the weakness of this talisman formation. Of course, even if Zhen Danxian didn't set this talisman formation here today, but another talisman formation, Chu Hen wouldn't panic too much. It was very simple. In the whole province, no one could compare with Shifeng Zi. Chu Hen studied Shifeng Zi's ancient book on runes. What he read were all higher-level rune techniques with a higher degree of complexity. In Chu Hen's eyes, this Heavenly Dipper reversal killing formation, which was far inferior to Shifeng Zi's, was full of flaws. Even if it was other talisman formations, Chu Hen could apply them according to what he had learned. Moreover, Chu Hen's pair of demonic eyes also had the powerful power to see through many things. The moment I decided to come back, I was already aware of something. Chu Hen looked coldly at Zhen Danxian, whose face was getting paler, and said, I have already thought through all the changes and obstacles that I might encounter. Zhen Danxian, do you really think that I can't guess that you will be waiting for me here? You! As soon as he said this, Zhen Danxian felt like he was struck by lightning. At this moment, he felt that the young man in front of him was extremely terrifying, especially the young man's eyes, which had been especially calm from beginning to end, contained an unfathomable power. Gusts of cold air whistled between heaven and earth. The imperial ancestor at the top of the hall of diligent government shouted in a deep voice, Little bastard, how dare you? The corner of Chu Hen's mouth rose. In the next instant, a terrifying aura that covered the sky and covered the earth attacked Zhen Danxian without any warning. At this time, there is nothing that I, Chu Hen, don't dare to do. Everyone was shocked, and before they could react, thick black clouds shrouded the sky above Zhen Danxuan's head. The dense black clouds stirred the heaven and earth, and turned into a black whirlpool with a width of 100 meters. Lightning flashed, thunder roared, and airwaves soared into the sky. Zhen Danxian, who was under great pressure, turned pale with fright. He hastily retreated. But it was too late. A giant black hand that looked like an ancient fiend god reached down from the dark clouds. At the same time, countless fine black rays of light shot out and quickly entangled Zhen Danxuan's body. Chu Hen's eyes were indifferent and emotionless. Black light lingered around him, as he emitted the aura of a king that controlled life and death. I warned you just now, if you want to live a few more years, take your people and leave. You treat my kindness like grass. This is the consequence you will bear. No, Zhen Danxian was incomparably terrified. He had long since lost his previous arrogance. In the next instant, that huge black hand reached above Zhen Danxuan's head. Then, the Reiki energy in Zhen Danxuan's Naiwan palace was forcibly plundered. Waves of dense golden light surged out from the center of Zhen Danxuan's brows, and then a golden ball of light flew out. Within the ball of light was actually an exquisite tree with luxuriant branches and leaves. What was that? The eyes of everyone in the surroundings narrowed subconsciously. Street tree? That was Zhen Danxuan's street tree. Chu Hen actually forcefully snatched away the other party's street tree. Shock, extreme shock. Fear. Innumerable people immediately felt a deep sense of fear. Feeling the Reiki energy being rapidly sapped away, Zhen Danxian was both furious and fearful. As he struggled, he turned to his companions and the sovereign ancestor for help. Save me, Overwhelmed with shock, the crowd from the otherworldly spirit sect rushed forward to save him. The imperial ancestor, who had a gloomy expression, also released a burst of violent aura towards Chu Hen. But before anyone could make a move, the powerful black hand grabbed Zhen Danxian tightly, and with a loud ping, along with Zhen Danxuan's cry of agony, his body exploded on the spot. Flesh, blood, and internal organs rained down from the sky. Chapter 594. Bang! A violent energy wave exploded in the sky above the imperial palace. Along with the wanton and vigorous power, scarlet blood splashed down like rain. Endless cold, killing intent spread out, and the aura of death suppressed the whole area. What? Looking at the scene before them, all the people of the various forces in the imperial city that had gathered around the imperial palace turned pale with fright, and shock that was difficult to increase surged into their eyes. Zhen Danxian, the #1 spiritual tattooist of the Sacred Star Dynasty, was killed without leaving any bones behind? Isn't this a little too astounding? Especially before his death, Chu Hen even forcibly robbed his street tree, made him suffer great pain, and then crushed it with one palm. This kind of means was really frightening in the horrified crowd. A young woman's face instantly turned as pale as paper. She trembled all over, covered her mouth with her palm, and murmured, "Uncle, uncle." This person was none other than Zhen Danxuan's niece, Zhen Yi. Shock, anger, hatred, and endless fear. All kinds of negative emotions surged into Zhen Yi's mind. Since she became enemies with Chu Hen in the Tattooist Guild 2 years ago, Zhen Yi had never dreamed that the man she looked down upon would become her nightmare one day. The sky above the square in front of the Hall of Diligent Government was filled with a bleak silence. Several elders of the otherworldly spirit sect, who had not had time to rescue Zhen Danxian, all stopped where they were. Their faces were ashen as they stared at Chu Hen in horror. Buzz! Chu Hen's whole body was shrouded in a dense black aura. After killing Zhen Danxian with one move, he did not even blink his eyelids. I repeat, today's grudge is between me and the royal family of the Sacred Star Dynasty. Those who are not involved, immediately, get out of here. Get out, his voice, which was mixed with hidden strength, exploded in the ears of the spiritual tattooists of the otherworldly spirit sect like thunder. They all trembled with fear and looked at Chu Hen with eyes full of fear. Immediately, Chu Hen turned sideways, and his cold eyes were like two sharp swords shooting at the imperial ancestor, bursting out with overwhelming killing intent. "Old man, I'm going to skin you alive today." The tense atmosphere was on the verge of exploding. The experts from both sides were ready to fight. Chu Hen's momentum was like a bolt of lightning. He did not show any weakness and directly clashed with the martial ancestor's torrential aura. The imperial ancestor's face was gloomy and filled with a cold, murderous aura. To be honest, if he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he really wouldn't have believed that with Zhen Danxuan's ability, he would have been instantly killed by Chu Hen. Recently, the imperial ancestor had found out that Chu Hen had won the championship of the Sword Code Grand Meeting and defeated Song Yujie, the leader of the 4 young masters, in the Moon End City. What shocked the imperial ancestor the most was none other than the magnificent feat of seizing Taishao City. Because of these sensations, the imperial ancestor had no choice but to pay more attention to Chu Hen. However, the imperial ancestor had still underestimated his opponent's capabilities. You're still too inexperienced. If you think that you can overthrow my Saint Star Empire, you're too naive. Although the imperial ancestor's expression was ugly, he did not panic at all. From his point of view, the situation had not reached the point where he should panic. The current situation was still under his control. Buzz! As soon as he finished speaking, a majestic momentum surged out of the imperial ancestor's body. The airflow between heaven and earth whistled along with it. With a cold look in his eyes, he shouted in a deep voice, "Kill all these rebels. Kill them all without mercy. Kill without mercy, yes." The experts of the Imperial Dark Squad accepted the order in unison. Then, they all rushed towards the people of the Hidden Wind region. Chu Hen was not to be outdone. He waved his hand and a cold light flickered in his eyes. Kill! Kill! In an instant, the experts of the Imperial family and the Hidden Wind region collided with each other like two raging waves. Each of their momentum surged and their weapons emitted cold light. Colorful true ether collided and immediately set off a fierce and chaotic battle. Roar! Screech! At this point, the last strength of the Imperial family was here, and almost all of them were experts. However, the Hidden Wind region was not weak either. There were many experts of the void-piercing realm. In particular, Chu Hen had just killed Jin Danxian with thunderous means, which greatly increased the momentum of everyone. Under the all-out melee, the Imperial family almost did not have any advantage. The sky was dark and the beacon smoke rose. In the huge Imperial palace, there were shouts of killing. Chu Hen and the Imperial ancestor looked at each other from afar. The power emitted from the two was like two mountains confronting each other. Humph, a rank 7 void-piercing realm dares to provoke me? Whoosh! Along with the sound of his voice, the Imperial ancestor directly left an afterimage in place. At the same time, a bright silver light crossed out. In an instant, the other party rushed in front of Chu Hen. A palm knife covered with silver light tore through the air and slashed at Chu Hen's throat with lightning speed. A strong wind wave roared head-on. The speed of the Imperial ancestor was comparable to lightning. Countless people present could not catch it with the naked eye. Die! Boom! The violent shock exploded in the sky, and a circle of silver and black intersecting halos spread horizontally between the two, and the fierce wind swept in all directions. The pupils of the people outside the field trembled slightly, and they saw that Chu Hen blocked the Imperial ancestor's palm knife with his left arm. Buzz! Chu Hen's arm was covered with a layer of powerful black light, and he constantly released a fierce hidden strength to impact the other party's muscles and bones. The Imperial ancestor sneered. Then, a dazzling starlight surged out. Boom! With a muffled sound, Chu Hen only felt his arm numb, and he was directly shaken by the other party. In the next moment, the Imperial ancestor once again set off a violent palm momentum like a stormy sea, hitting Chu Hen's chest. The restless power of the stars danced quickly in the palm of the other party, which contained the power to topple the mountains and overturn the seas. Chu Hen's brow wrinkled slightly, and his palm moved with it. Shing! The air wave trembled, and Sun Luoya appeared in his hand. He backhanded out a black saber like a burning black flame, and it went straight to the other's palm strength. Boom! The intersection of the knife and the palm was like the collision of mountains and rivers. Under the chaos of the true essence, Chu Hen only felt a surging mountain power coming from the front. The palm was numb, and the Sun Luoya almost flew out. This old man, Chu Hen, was shocked in his heart, and he somewhat underestimated the strength of this old guy. The peak of the 9th order of the void-breaking realm is really not so easy to deal with. It seems that I can't take it lightly. Today's battle, I must go all out. Immediately, a more powerful black brilliance gushed out of Chu Hen's body, and at the same time, in this black true essence, it is also mixed with a strange purple light. Old man, I will kill you! Chi-chi! With a manic momentum, Chu Hen held the hilt of the knife with both hands and slashed at the opponent with a dragging and chopping posture. In the process of moving, the dense black thunder and lightning quickly climbed up the blade. Looking from a distance, Chu Hen's hand seemed to be holding a black thunder and lightning pillar with peerless momentum. Feeling the power of Chu Hen's blade, the ancestor's eyes turned cold. Then, he grabbed at the air with one hand. Along with the rapidly flowing silver starlight, in an instant, a scepter that glowed with bright white light astonishingly appeared in his hand. This scepter was about 2 meters long, bright and dazzling, and the whole body became like fine scales. The top was curved into a dragon head, showing the symbol of high imperial power. Boom! The Sun Luoya crown covered with black thunder and lightning slashed the middle of the scepter with the power to split the mountain and split the earth, exploding into thousands of light patterns, sparks and wantonly scattered air waves. Chu Hen's offensive was once again blocked by the opponent. Between the two, a layer of gorgeous true essence light arc rose, continuously colliding with each other, setting off bursts of explosions. Humph, ignorant child, a mere ant also dares to compete with a tiger. Chapter 595. Killing intent rose in all directions, roars shaking the heavens. At this moment, an incomparably intense chaotic battle was taking place in the imperial capital of the Saint Star Empire. The experts of the Hidden Wind region led by Chu Hen were fighting against the experts of the imperial family. The sky had changed color and the world was dark. All kinds of powerful forces collided with each other, creating waves of frightening power. Screech! Roar! The demonic beasts and the human experts were engaged in a fierce battle, even though the heavenly beast sect's demonic beast army was very powerful. Although the demonic beasts of the heavenly beast sect were powerful, the members of the Imperial Dark Team were also experts who had undergone rigorous training. Whether it was individual combat or team combat, both sides were going all out. Roar! In comparison, the Hidden Wind region's side was the most ferocious. The 7th-level Beast King, Shuriyan's evil dragon, was the most lethal to the Imperial family. In a one-on-one situation, almost no one could compete with it. However, the Imperial family had the advantage in numbers. Clatter, dozens of black iron chains wrapped around Shuriyan's evil dragon's huge body from different directions, trapping it like a dumpling. "Restrain this evil beast first," a man wearing a red mask shouted. "Understood." Underworld Swamp. In an instant, dozens of Imperial family experts burst out with powerful true inner force at the same time. Then, they all evolved into a complicated seal. Boom. In the next moment, Shuriyan's evil dragon's body burst out with a huge amount of mud. The sticky mud quickly wrapped Shuriyan's evil dragon's huge body. This kind of mud was extremely sticky. Shuriyan's evil dragon suddenly felt like it had fallen into cement, and its movement became extremely slow. Heaven Fire Burning Devil. The Imperial family experts launched another attack. Accompanied by an overwhelming heat wave, dozens of red fire pillars like erupting volcanoes submerged Shuriyan's evil dragon. Roar! The scorching heat instantly burned the layer of mud covering Shuriyan's evil dragon's body red. The water in the mud quickly evaporated, and in an instant, the mud quickly solidified and became extremely hard. Shuriyan's evil dragon's movements were restricted. Only its head was exposed while the rest of its body was covered by the solidified magma. "Hurry up, don't give it time to break free," the man in the red mask ordered again. "Attack it with all your might and completely destroy its ability to move." "Yes." All the experts of the Dark Team responded in unison, their eyes flashing with cold killing intent behind their mask. Without saying a word, they each raised a sharp black iron spear and poured their true essence into it. The spear swallowed and spat out a beautiful light. "Do it." Swish, swish, in a flash, dozens of sharp spears that were made of Xian body slanted down like flying arrows that had been flying for thousands of years. They rolled up an incomparably powerful destructive aura and attacked the head of the Shuriyan evil dragon beast. After all, Shuriyan had been imprisoned in the Heavenly Beast sect for 7 years. Even if his evil dragon beast was strong, it was obviously lacking in battle experience compared to the warriors of the Dark Team of the royal family who had undergone rigorous training. In this case, Shuriyan's evil dragon had nowhere to hide. It could only let the opponent become its target. Clang! At this moment, a burst of crisp sword aura vibrated between the sky and the earth. A group of powerful white sword shadows rushed over and intercepted the flying spears that were aimed at Shuriyan's evil dragon beast. The astonishing sword chi stirred up a layer of surging chi waves in the air, sweeping away dozens of spears with the force of 1,000 caddies. Damn it! The man in the red mask angrily cursed. However, the one who blocked them was a devastatingly beautiful figure. Her slender jade-like hand was holding a long sword lightly and dexterously. Luo Mingxiang's beautiful eyes slightly raised. She didn't wait for the enemies to launch the next round of attack. Her white wrist moved, and a series of illusory sword shadows appeared behind her. Swish! A white sword light that was 100 meters long pierced the sky and slashed the body of the man in the red mask. The man let out a scream and was directly sent flying. The sword wound was so deep that the bone could be seen from his shoulder all the way to his ribs. Then, a giant eagle rushed over and firmly grabbed the man with its pair of giant claws. Blood rained down as the guillotine claws instantly tore the man into pieces. At the same time, Shilan also flew to Luo Mingxiang's side and raised her palm to hit Shiyan's evil dragon beast's body. Bang! The gentle palm energy was like the undercurrent of the deep sea, and the thick layer of magma covering Shiyan's evil dragon beast's body cracked. Then, Shilan's palm condensed, and a group of condensed golden light quickly gathered together. She waved her hand, and that golden light turned into a beam of divine light and swept out. Ding, 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 a series of sparks splashed, and more than half of the chains binding Shiyan's evil dragon beast's body were cut off. Roar! Then, Shiyan's evil dragon beast became furious, and its terrifying power completely erupted. The magma layer on its body was completely crushed into dust, and the chains binding its body were all shaken off. Immediately, Shiyan's evil dragon beast was filled with anger, and it fiercely pounced on the masters of the dark team who were besieging it. A series of miserable screams resounded, and dazzling blood constantly flew under its sharp fangs. The fierce battle was getting more and more tragic. Broken corpses piled up on the ground, and the scope of the battle continued to expand. Buildings in the Imperial Palace suddenly collapsed. Shilan and Luo Mingxiang first looked at each other, and then subconsciously looked at the battle in the sky. Those two people were the main factors that determined the outcome of today's chaotic battle. Bang! Boom! The battle between Chu Hen and the Imperial Ancestor was getting more and more intense. Every time the two collided, the space trembled, and the true elemental energy flew everywhere. Layers upon layers of light patterns and airwaves continuously burst out between the two of them. While attacking and defending, their speed was extremely fast, and their strength was extremely strong. Looking from a distance, Chu Hen attacked more than he defended, and he was always suppressed by the Imperial Ancestor. There seemed to be a relatively obvious gap in the strength of the two sides. Even so, no one in the crowd who witnessed this fierce battle dared to underestimate Chu Hen. Once upon a time, when Chu Hen was chased by the Imperial Ancestor, he had no power to resist, and he could not even take one move from the Imperial Ancestor. Now, in just 2 years, Chu Hen was able to fight head-on with the Imperial Ancestor without showing any signs of defeat. The terror of this talent caused everyone in the Imperial City to be astounded. Outside the battle, as a member of the royal family, Huang Fuqing did not participate in this battle that was related to the survival of the Sacred Star Dynasty. She stood quietly outside the battle, and her emotions were indescribably complicated. Bang! Suddenly, a heavy explosion came from the sky. The scepter in the Imperial Ancestor's hand released a strong light like the sun, and an unbearable monstrous force hit Chu Hen's body. Chu Hen rapidly descended from the sky. Boom! He heavily collided with a luxurious palace that was dazzling with gold and jade. The huge impact force was comparable to a huge rock that was a cannonball. It directly turned the palace into a pile of ruins. Chu Hen? Third brother. Luo Mengqiang, Shilan, Long Qingyang, Qi Ting, and the others all changed their expressions. Outside the battle, the spectators in the Imperial City were also shocked, and there was a low uproar. The Imperial Ancestor was the Imperial Ancestor after all, and he had gained the upper hand so quickly. Humph! The imperial ancestor looked coldly at Chu Hen, who was buried in the ruins below, and then his eyes turned cold. A strong wave of star power erupted from his body, and a dazzling silver divine light rushed to his right arm. Hum! He punched out, and in an instant, a huge fist print fell down like a falling star, shaking the heavens, and smashed towards Chu Hen below. You can go die now. However, just when almost everyone outside the battle thought that Chu Hen could not escape, bang! With a bang, the ruins exploded and a cluster of black lightning light shot out from the ruins. It collided head-on with the huge fist. Boom! Starlight bloomed and lightning wandered. The ferocious impact was like a collapse caused by the collision of mountains, and the violent energy turbulence caused the space to shake. Rubble and dust were all crushed by the impact. Boom! Then, a fierce figure flashed out from the rubble, and his body was surrounded by dark lightning. Dense lightning patterns intertwined, and his aura was oppressive. Chapter 596. Boom! The collision between the silver fist print and the dark thunderball was like a landslide and a tsunami, and the violent energy fluctuations caused the space to shake uneasily. The majestic momentum whistled all the way down, and the rubble and dust were crushed into powder. Bang! In the next moment, Chu Hen, who had fallen into the ruins, quickly flashed out, and his whole body was swallowed up and down with a strong and angry dark thunder and lightning. He saw that his clothes were slightly messy, and a faint trace of blood overflowed from the corner of his mouth. Everyone who saw this scene was shocked. While being shocked by the unshakable strength of the Emperor Ancestor, they were also shocked by the strength of Chu Hen's defensive ability. Under normal circumstances, under the repeated attacks of the Emperor Ancestor, there was no Wu Xiao in the 7th stage of the void-breaking realm who could stand up safely. However, the aura exuded by Chu Hen was still strong. Whoosh! With a heavy tremor of the air wave, Chu Hen's eyes, which were staring at the Emperor Ancestor, suddenly changed from deep black to evil purple. In the depths of the purple pupils, 4 black dots quickly appeared. Looking at the pair of demonic purple pupils, the Emperor Ancestor's eyes were slightly cold. For some reason, this pair of strange eyes gave him a sense of fear. There are too many secrets in this little bastard, can't stay. If this kind of person stays in the world, it can only be a big trouble, and it must be eradicated as soon as possible. Buzz. At this moment, the space in front of the Emperor Ancestor suddenly became distorted, and an extremely cold and violent aura swept out. In the next moment, a group of demonic purple flames rose out of thin air, like a fierce beast tide pouncing on the other party. The Emperor Ancestor's face changed slightly, and he could clearly feel the danger of this purple flame. Humph, good boy, you actually have so many trump cards. Boom! Immediately, the scepter in the palm of the Emperor Ancestor burst out a strong brilliance of starlight. The white body of the scepter flowed with a powerful chi pattern, and the awe-inspiring power spread out. The Imperial Ancestor waved his hand, and the scepter spitting out silver light was like a divine sword cutting through the air, splitting the surging purple flames in front of him. An overbearing and monstrous aura stacked up, and the spiritual energy between heaven and earth surged. The Imperial Ancestor raised the scepter above his head, and threw it out like a spear. Die. Xiao. A circle of ripples appeared in the air, and the scepter immediately shot downwards. Its speed was so fast that it looked like a flowing light. In the process of moving, the scepter shone brilliantly. Spiral-shaped surging airwaves rotated rapidly in front of the scepter. This strike contained the might of the heavenly abode. Chu Hen, who was below, narrowed his eyes. He could clearly feel the terrifying penetrative power coming from the scepter. Immediately, Chu Hen didn't say anything further and used the arcade movement technique with his fastest speed. With a whoosh sound, he drew out a bright silver-colored ray of light and quickly shot out. In the next instant, when Chu Hen dodged, the scepter, which was emitting a powerful brilliance, flew over. It seemed to pass through the soles of Chu Hen's feet and hit the ground below. Boom! In an instant, the terrifying power contained in the scepter poured onto the ground. The ground shook, and the imperial city shook. An extremely ferocious impact force exploded in the ground with a destructive force. A monstrous energy power soared into the sky like a mountain torrent and a tsunami. The heavens and earth suddenly changed color, and the vast, surging shockwaves spread in all directions. Countless deep cracks quickly opened up on the ground, and the ground collapsed inch by inch. Sand filled the sky, and rubble flew everywhere in the blink of an eye. A huge pit that was hundreds of feet wide appeared in front of everyone's eyes. This? Heavens, what a terrifying power! The people outside the battlefield were so shocked that their faces turned pale, and they were still overwhelmed with shock. It was not hard to imagine that it was fortunate that Chu Hen had dodged quickly enough. If he had been a step slower, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Even though he was able to dodge the attack with his keen agility, the aftermath of the explosion still shook Chu Hen's 5 viscera and 6 bowels. Xiao! Chu Hen twisted in the air, and landed on top of a luxurious palace like a tiger or a wolf. Chu Hen knelt on one knee on the ground, his limitless fangs stuck in a crack between the tiles. He held his chest with one hand, and a stream of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth again. Seeing this, Luo Menchang, Shilan, Long Qingyang, and the others were extremely worried. For Chu Hen, facing the imperial ancestor was too much for him. But now that things had come to this, there was no turning back. Alcade body technique. The imperial ancestor's face was filled with murderous intent. Bang! The scepter flew out of the ruins and once again landed in the imperial ancestor's hand. It shone with a dazzling light, as if it had been forged from the essence of the sun, moon, and heavens. The imperial family had not tolerated Chu Hen because he had defeated Huang Fuliang in the heaven-ranking tournament, which had damaged the dignity of the imperial family, but the biggest reason was that the divine empress suspected that Chu Hen had obtained the 7-star scripture. To the imperial family, a treasure like the 7-star scripture was something that only the imperial family could wield. Outsiders could not touch it. Buzz! A heavy rumble echoed through the air. The imperial ancestor's scepter danced, and the aura of a rising dragon surrounded him. Then, the dragon head at the top of the scepter opened. At the same time, a condensed beam of light shot out, sweeping up a powerful murderous aura as it charged at Chu Hen. It was like a bolt of lightning. Chu Hen's heart was slightly startled. He hastily used the limitless fang to block in front of him. Bang! True essence stirred up a gust of wind and great waves rose up. The incomparably boundless energy surged down and completely collided with the center of the limitless fang's blade. A tyrannical force surged into Chu Hen's body. At the same time that the tall jade building below him was shaken and collapsed, Chu Hen was also blown away by the astonishing energy. Humph! A sinister sneer appeared on the imperial ancestor's face. If I had waited another 2 years, you would indeed have posed a great threat to me. But the stupidest thing about you is that you've underestimated me. Today, not only will all of you die, I will also sentence all of you to death. Roar! The imperial ancestor's aura rose again, and an illusory image of a dragon soared into the sky. Fierce winds swept in all directions, covering the sky and sending sand and stones flying. Everyone's expression changed. Anyone could sense the chi of death on the imperial ancestor's body. It was obvious that he wanted to end this battle. However, at this moment, something surprising happened again. As Chu Hen rapidly retreated, a magnificent radiance surged out from his body. His eyes turned cold, and a golden and exquisite flame cloud pattern faintly appeared between his eyebrows. Following that, strange runes and numbers quickly extended out from his face and body. These runes and numbers were like ancient mysterious patterns. They followed along Chu Hen's cheeks and extended outwards. They looked pure and holy, yet revealed a trace of demonic charm. Immediately after, 2 golden shadows spread out from Chu Hen's back, and immediately transformed into two pairs of symmetrical and gorgeous wings of light. Heavenly Spirit Seal. Boom! Along with Chu Hen's roar, the aura he released rose bit by bit, once again increasing by a large margin. What? Everyone outside the Imperial City was shocked again and again. They never thought that Chu Hen would have such a move. In that instant. A monstrous black light erupted from Chu Hen's body. A huge azure shadow appeared behind him and hovered between the heavens and earth, giving off the aura of a demon. The sky dimmed and the 3,000 bolts of lightning went berserk. Chu Hen raised the black saber in his hand. The black light that covered it rose and pulsed, shaking the surroundings. Azure slash! Buzz! The space trembled violently and a wave of wind was split open. A 1,000-meter-wide ray of light split the heavens and earth, slashing towards the Imperial Ancestor. The terrifying, monstrous aura was like a ferocious creature from hell, unstoppable like a mountain. Boom! In the next moment, the surging ray of light exploded in front of the Imperial Ancestor. He raised his scepter with both hands and used it to block above his head, forcibly resisting the terrifying attack. The Imperial Ancestor stood under the black ray of light as endless violent waves of air spread out from his body. All the buildings in the area below collapsed and were destroyed, but the Imperial Ancestor seemed to have taken root in the void and did not retreat even half a step. Insignificant skill. The Imperial Ancestor shouted coldly. Don't be too proud, old man. What? Everyone's pupils shrank. Before they could recover from the shock of Chu Hen's stunning slash, Chu Hen had already disappeared from where he stood. He turned into a beam of light and rushed out. A vast purple-black light rotated up and down his body. Chu Hen held the black saber diagonally with both hands and launched an attack by dragging it. Chi-chi! Countless dense black bolts of lightning quickly scurried up the sharp blade. The dark bolts of lightning interweaved and connected, producing a high-pitched cry of 1,000 birds. Old man, if you have the ability, try taking this attack again. Screech! With a sharp cry and a thunderous momentum, Chu Hen dragged the terrifying blade covered in arcs of lightning towards the Imperial Ancestor's head. A series of blade shadows showed their ferocity. The Imperial Ancestor's face revealed a faint look of surprise. Boom! The deafening sound shook the eardrums of everyone present, and the silver light and black lightning suddenly exploded in the sky. Layers of shocking waves rolled up a biting cold hurricane, howling and sweeping across the sky. The incomparably strong power shocked the surrounding people and caused them to fly back one after another. They saw the black saber in Chu Hen's hand collide with the golden scepter in the Imperial Ancestor's hand. The two clashed head-on, sparks flying in all directions, and a rain of light fell. Between the two weapons, dazzling sparks blossomed. Bang! Chapter 597. Boom! Following that, a violent and shocking shock exploded in the world. Along with the true yuan that was recklessly stacked up like a stormy sea, Chu Hen and the Emperor Ancestor were sent flying backwards from the shock. At the same time, the weapons in their hands flew out of their hands and sank deep into the ruins on the ground. What? This? Outside the battlefield, everyone in the imperial capital widened their eyes in shock. Chu Hen could actually knock away the scepter in the Imperial Ancestor's hand? Just how powerful was that blade strike just now? Shock appeared on the faces of the spectators. They originally thought that the battle was about to end, but who would have thought that Chu Hen would become braver and turn the tables at such a critical juncture? Good. The eyes of the Hidden Wind Region's experts lit up, and their faces were filled with excitement. The anxiety and worry that had appeared on his face just now also faded a little. A deathbed struggle. The Imperial Ancestor coldly stared at Chu Hen, killing intent surging in his eyes. Then, an incomparably powerful starlight erupted from the Imperial Ancestor's body, and the dazzling light enveloped the sky in silver. Today, I'll show you the true power of the 7-star scripture. Endless starlight spread out, and the Imperial Ancestor's body glowed with a sparkling luster, looking like a dazzling sun. Almost at the same time, the four wings behind Chu Hen unfurled, and under the power of the heavenly spirit curse seal, the Yuan Dan in his Dantian's Qi Si began to revolve several times faster than usual. Boom! In the next instant, within Chu Hen's body, boundless brilliance of starlight was released. Beautiful silvery flowing shadows revolved around his body, and like a tornado whirlpool, it formed an astonishing undulation. The imperial ancestor's eyes turned even colder, and then an unstoppable monstrous aura burst out. Alcade flash shocking the world. A storm was brewing and the world was changing color. A thunderous roar exploded between the heavens and earth as the imperial ancestor charged forth with a torrential momentum, unleashing a myriad of starlight that turned into a mighty silver meteorite. Wind and thunder rumbled, and a terrifying pressure swept across the sky like a mountain, pressing down all the way. At the same time, Chu Hen's eyes flashed with determination, and he similarly erupted with dazzling light patterns. His entire body was enveloped in starlight, and he transformed into a meteor to face the attack head-on. Alcade flash, shocking the heavens and earth. What? Everyone in the surroundings was greatly alarmed. The two starfalls streaked across the sky. Their speed was extremely fast, and their attacks were extremely powerful. The air currents between the two became extremely turbulent. Under the countless shocked gazes of the four spectators, the meteor formed by the imperial ancestor and Chu Hen was like two meteorites that flew from the heavens and unexpectedly met each other. Boom! An incomparably violent energy instantly exploded in the sky above the imperial city, and a terrifying aura instantly soared into the sky. In an instant, the entire imperial city seemed to shake uneasily. Destructive energy swept through the imperial palace below, and a mighty silver wave of air swept out in all directions. With a loud rumble, the majestic great hall of diligent government at the back of the battle instantly collapsed. Blinding silver light blossomed in the sky, and the dark sky was immediately illuminated by the vast and mighty dark clouds. Wild winds howled, and the experts of the imperial family and the hidden wind region were all shaken back. Many people who couldn't dodge in time were directly blown away by the powerful aftershock of the powerful air wave, vomiting blood and falling to the ground. Whoosh! Immediately afterward, two figures with powerful auras flew out of the chaotic energy storm. Everyone's pupils trembled, and they glanced at the two of them one after another. They saw that neither of them had any obvious injuries. The imperial ancestor's entire body emitted dazzling starlight, and he emitted an unshakable and powerful aura. As for Chu Hen, the true yuan surrounding his body was relatively mottled. The light that was released was not pure starlight, and it was also a fusion of the black power of chaos, the power of the purple demon pupil, and the energy power of the heaven spirit curse seal. 4 different colors of brilliance revolved around Chu Hen like flowing shadows, and the spiritual power between heaven and earth became abnormally chaotic. Under the contrast of the heaven spirit curse seal, Chu Hen's demonic purple pupils seemed to be even more demonic. Facing the imperial ancestor, who was at the peak of the 9th stage of the void-piercing realm, Chu Hen became braver and braver as he fought. "Humph, I'd like to see how long you can last." The imperial ancestor frowned, and he clenched his hand into a fist. Buzz! Immediately, a surging tide of power quickly poured into the opponent's right arm, and together with the trembling energy fluctuations, the imperial ancestor's arm instantly became crystal clear and dazzling. Between raising his hand and flicking his sleeve, he emitted the power to destroy mountains and rivers. Opening Sun Fist, Heaven and Earth Suppression. Boom! The majestic and monstrous power swept out, and a solid fist print flew out, rapidly enlarging in the process of moving, rolling up a strong wave of air and rushing toward the opponent. Opening Sun Fist, Mountains and Rivers Extinguish. At the same time, Chu Hen's right fist, which was surrounded by bright stars, clenched, and a circle of silver ripples spread out in the air. A punch blasted out, and a powerful fist shadow separated from Chu Hen's arm, directly affecting the Imperial ancestor's attack. Rumble! In the process of moving, the fist print that the two blasted out was rapidly enlarged. In an instant, it changed from the size of an ordinary fist print to 100 feet wide, one above and one below, diagonally piercing out, like a terrifying punch from two giants. Boom! Under the gaze of the surrounding pairs of trembling eyes, the huge silver fist print once again fiercely collided with each other. It was earth-shattering, and the momentum was like thunder. The two extremely destructive forces were like two torrents breaking through the dam, intertwining and colliding with each other, and the turbulent and violent power spread in all directions, toppling the mountains and overturning the seas, filling this side of the world. Rumble! The fierce energy collision was comparable to the rolling thunder, and everyone only felt that the sky above the palace was about to explode. The surging waves of air once again rushed in all directions, and the dazzling buildings below were razed to the ground, turning into ruins. Under the chaotic hurricane, Chu Hen once again blocked the other party's fierce attack. Very good. The Imperial ancestor revealed a cold smile. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and he shouted in a deep voice, "Old man, you and I both cultivate the 7-star scripture. Do you think I'll be afraid of you?" Arrogant! The Imperial ancestor pushed down with both palms, and a strong wind blew, causing his gorgeous robe to flutter loudly. Dark clouds began to roll in the sky, and a bright starlight once again appeared in the Imperial ancestor's body. What followed was the rolling thunder. An endless silver light actually descended from the sky, through the thick clouds, and sprinkled on the ground. The thick clouds in the sky quickly dispersed, and then a giant silver palm reached down from the clouds, with the power to suppress mountains and rivers, and smashed down towards Chu Hen's head. The terrifying, unstoppable force was greater than the pressure of a mountain. Alioth palm, move the heavens! However, just as everyone present was shocked by the Imperial ancestor's powerful method, Chu Hen laughed coldly, and then grabbed at the void with his bare hands. Hum! The air trembled, and the spiritual power that filled the world all rushed towards Chu Hen's palm. Brilliant silver starlight exploded from it. In an instant, Chu Hen's arm seemed to be soaked in the essence of the stars, and with a casual movement, it was filled with the power to move mountains and fill seas. Alioth palm, move the heavens. Rumble! Chu Hen shouted, and he stretched out a palm. Wind and thunder roared, and a giant silver palm appeared in the sky, and pushed out with the power to topple mountains and overturn seas. The silver palm flowed with white patterns of light. It was crystal clear, like the hand of a god. Boom! The two almost identical silver hands collided with each other with heaven-shaking might, causing the world to turn upside down and the winds and clouds to change. When the two collided, the majestic power directly exploded with incomparably violent and shocking turbulence. Chapter 598. Rumble! In the sky above the Imperial Palace, the sky was dark, the ground was dark, and the storm was sweeping. Chaotic and majestic energy waves almost enveloped the entire Imperial Palace. The sky was filled with dazzling starlight, dyeing the entire Imperial city in a holy silver color. Under the roaring wind, the battle between the Imperial family and the Hidden Wind region became more and more intense. Demonic beasts roared, giant eagles struck the air. The world fell into chaos. Under the chaotic sky that was comparable to a hurricane, Chu Hen, who was surrounded by 4 types of brilliant light patterns, and the Emperor Ancestor, who was suspended in the sky like a star, confronted each other. The might that erupted from the two of them was like a mountain, like a fierce beast, ice-cold, and made one's heart tremble. Alcade flash. Sun opening fist. Alioth palm. He used the same skill 3 times in a row, shaking the heavens. The shocking scenes that broke out one after another could be said to have affected the hearts of countless people present. The huge and magnificent scene continuously impacted everyone's visual nerve. The battle between Chu Hen and the Emperor Ancestor almost pierced through the blue dome of the sky. This was the first time that the people of the Sacred Star Dynasty saw the powerful strength of the imperial ancestor, but they were still more shocked by the shock brought by Chu Hen. To be honest, the people of the Sacred Star Dynasty could be said to have watched Chu Hen grow up. From when he first entered the imperial city, he was rejected by the 30 high-ranked martial houses, to when he showed his brilliance in the Earth List and Heaven List battles. Step by step, Chu Hen challenged the expectations of the audience. Huang Fuqing, who was outside of the battle, lightly pursed her red lips. Her jade-like hands involuntarily clenched into fists, and her knuckles were faintly white. Not long ago, Chu Hen was just a young man carrying a cold spear, running around in the forest alone. When the two met for the first time, his cultivation level was still at the beginning of the channel opening realm, but a mere channel opening realm brat dared to attack the Howling Moon Ice Wolf of the Beast King level, and saved Huang Fuqing from its claws. From that moment on, Huang Fuqing felt that this man was somewhat special. Every time she was with him, the feeling was different. What attracted Huang Fuqing the most was the faint warmth in Chu Hen's eyes. He was clearly just a youth, but he seemed to have experienced and endured countless hardships. After a few years, Huang Fuqing did not expect that the young man who had given him a warm feeling would become the biggest enemy of the Sacred Star Dynasty. Buzz buzz. The roar of the wind and rain shook the heavens, shaking the heavens. In the battle for the 7-star scripture, Chu Hen did not lose to the imperial ancestor. Rage and killing intent burst out of the imperial ancestor's body like a cold current and swept out. In an instant, the surrounding space violently distorted with the ancestor emperor at the center. He brought his palms together, and an extremely restless energy ripple was released from his hands. I have to say that your comprehension ability does make me jealous. You should be proud to be able to cultivate the 7-star scripture to this level in such a short period of time, but the imperial ancestor's aura rose, and 2 beams of light shot out of his eyes. He shouted, "The 7-star scripture is not limited to the 3rd level. Now, I will show you the power of the 4th level." What? Everyone's expression changed. At this moment, the aura of the imperial ancestor had increased by several times. Thousands of beams of starlight surged out with a monstrous momentum. The dark sky was filled with wind and clouds, and the bright light patterns made the imperial ancestor look like a bright moon in the sky. Buzz buzz. An extremely restless energy ripple quickly condensed in the palm of the imperial ancestor. Together with waves of restless spatial ripples, the imperial ancestor's palms slowly separated, and a crescent-shaped silver shuttle quickly formed. As soon as this crescent moon shuttle appeared in everyone's sight, it immediately triggered an earth-shattering power. Circles of flowing ripples circled up and down, creating layers of water ripple-like air wave. At this moment, everyone could feel the destructive power contained in the imperial ancestor's attack. Chu Hen, who was in the air diagonally below, narrowed his eyes, and a chill surged in his purple demon eyes. The 7-star scripture had a total of 7 levels. Chu Hen had already cultivated the first 3 levels, and the 4th level required him to reach the 7th level of the void-piercing realm. Although Chu Hen currently had the strength of the peak of the 7th level, he had not broken through for long enough. He had not yet had the time to cultivate the 4th level. However, the imperial ancestor had been in seclusion for dozens of years, wholeheartedly comprehending the 7-star scripture, and had already mastered the 4th level. This was also the greatest advantage that the imperial ancestor relied on. It's over. The imperial ancestor's eyes revealed a trace of malevolence. When the shuttle in his palm reached a width of half a meter, he pushed down with both hands. Whoosh! A burst of air-tearing and air-splitting trembling sounds stacked up, and the flying shuttle directly dragged out an incomparably vigorous air wave as it shot out. Migre's shuttle, chasing sun and moon. The thunderous turbulence was deafening, and it made everyone's blood boil. A terrifyingly majestic force came down diagonally, pouncing towards Chu Hen. In the process of flying, the shuttle blossomed with bright and resplendent starlight. Along with the unceasingly expanding cyclone, it instantly changed from half a meter wide to a kilometer-wide giant shuttle. The world trembled and the surroundings shook. The peerless shuttle was like a crescent moon piercing through the air, its sharpness covering the sky and sweeping everything in its path. Wherever it went, everything turned into nothingness. Heavens! This power! Chu Hen is definitely dead. Everyone present was aghast, as if there was nothing else in the world except for the silver shuttle that resembled a divine moon. And Chu Hen, who was below it, was like a broken boat that was about to be hit by a meteorite. What awaited him was a puff of smoke and ash. Luo Mingxiang, Long Qingyang, Shilan, and the others' faces were already filled with a deep solemnity. However, at this moment, Chu Hen stretched out his left hand, and an extremely powerful glorious sun starlight erupted from his palm. In the next second, the giant shuttle that spanned 1,000 meters hit right in front of Chu Hen with the force to cleave the heavens and split the earth. Boom! The earth exploded and the heavens shook. An unprecedented violent tremor instantly exploded between heaven and earth. The sky was filled with silver blades of light that rained down like a storm, sweeping across the entire area. At this moment, everyone's optic nerves were suffering a particularly huge impact. Violent silver air waves spread across the sky, and space rippled like the surface of water. The palace buildings below all collapsed, and a giant ravine that spanned several thousand meters formed. However, to everyone's extreme disbelief, Chu Hen stood in place like a boulder. In front of him, there was a thick barrier of light floating in front of him. Under the violently distorted light barrier, the pattern of the Big Dipper floated and flickered, and the position of the Dubhe star flickered with dazzling divine light. Chapter 599. Migre's Shuttle, Chasing Sun and Moon Boom. The heavenly star explosion was earth-shattering. Everyone's faces were filled with shock as they watched the incomparably huge silver shockwave spread out vertically. The violent power caused the space above the imperial city to distort violently. Vast energy of the stars that was comparable to a tempestuous tsunami swept out in all directions, and it covered the heavens and the earth as it enveloped the surroundings. In an instant, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the imperial city began to move in a strange rhythm. The imperial family and the experts of the Hidden Wind region began to retreat one after another. The power of the fourth level of the seven-star scripture was actually this powerful. The imperial ancestors' most powerful attack could be said to have swept away everything. However, under the whistling of the hurricane, a scene that shocked everyone in the room happened. They saw Chu Hen hovering between heaven and earth like a boulder. A thick screen of light floated in front of him. The screen of light flickered with the majestic pattern of the Big Dipper. This pattern was vast and mighty, and it was like a mirage that had appeared in the sky. Within the pattern of the Big Dipper, the Dubhe star was the most dazzling, flashing with a holy light. What's that? The spectators outside the battlefield frowned, and shock appeared on their faces. The illusory screen of light quickly formed. With Chu Hen as the center, it transformed into a huge semicircle of light shield. It blocked the terrifying silver flying shuttle that traversed 1,000 meters in front of it. This shocking scene was like a divine moon falling from the sky and slashing down on a star. The endless dazzling silver light caused the world to lose its color. It's actually the Dubhe Star Soul Pearl, the imperial ancestor said in a cold and incredulous voice. He looked at Chu Hen with a cold gaze once again. Dubhe Star Soul Pearl? The moment these 5 words were spoken, it set off a huge wave in the hearts of everyone present. The national treasure of the 7 souls' ancient kingdom. The 7 star souls were 7 star pearls, also known as star soul pearls. Every star soul pearl was a top-notch sacred weapon. Moreover, the star soul pearls possessed the power to communicate with the stars of the 9 heavens. Once all 7 star soul pearls were gathered, their power would be comparable to a divine artifact. It could be said that by connecting with the power of the 7 stars and borrowing the might of the world, one could overturn mountains, fill oceans, and sweep through the world. Because of the 7-star soul pearls, it created the 7 souls empire's overlord. At the same time, it was also because of the 7-star soul pearl that some ambitious people coveted it. After the joint attack of the various powers, the 7 spirits' kingdom was destroyed and the mountains and rivers were destroyed. 5 of the 7-star soul pearls were taken away by the Azura sect, the illusory rain sect, the otherworldly spirit sect, and the 2 major forces outside the 100 Nations continent, the Undying Pavilion and the Heavenly Cloud Manor. In addition, the Dubhi Star Soul Pearl and the Merak Star Soul Pearl were nowhere to be found. Never had anyone imagined that the Dubhi Star Soul Pearl that countless people yearned for would actually be in the possession of Chu Hen. How could they not be shocked? Boom! Just as everyone was in shock, the gorgeous light screen around Chu Hen's body began to violently distort. Then, with a bang, the light screen exploded into light images that filled the sky. Chu Hen's pupils faintly trembled, and the hearts of the surrounding people also shrunk. In the next instant, the 1,000-meter-long flying shuttle with its majestic aura came crashing down. Its power was like thunder, splitting the sky and splitting the earth. Chu Hen? Third brother. The expressions of Luo Menchong, Shilan, Long Qingyang, and the rest of the people from the Hidden Wind region changed drastically. Under their horrified gazes, the silver shuttle that looked like a descending divine moon came crashing down with Chu Hen's tiny figure, slamming into the ground below. Bang! The ground shook and the entire city shook. An especially violent wave of air came crashing down. The torrent roared, and the magnificent buildings were instantly shattered into pieces. The usually indestructible stone bricks were now like tofu dregs, crumbling inch by inch and turning into fine powder that filled the sky. In an instant, almost half of the imperial palace was reduced to ruins. A huge and wide ravine ran deep into the ground, cutting across the east and west sides of the imperial palace. It looked like a huge fault that split the imperial palace in two. The appearance of this scene caused everyone in the imperial city to gasp in shock. As expected of an expert who was second only to the profound world realm, the imperial ancestor's strongest attack was truly terrifying. Even though Chu Hen had the Dubhi Star Soul Pearl to protect him, in the face of absolute strength, even a high-grade saint artifact couldn't make up for the difference. Dust filled the sky, and starlight shone brightly. The world was filled with chaotic and violent energy. The imperial ancestor stared coldly at the aftermath of the energy, but he didn't let his guard down. He knew very well that if it wasn't for the Dubhi Star Soul Pearl's defensive power, the attack just now would have been enough to crush Chu Hen into nothing. The Dubhi Star Soul Pearl blocked most of the impact, so it was hard to say what the result would be. Of course, from the imperial ancestor's point of view, even if Chu Hen didn't die from that attack, he certainly wouldn't be any better. It's completely over. Without any hesitation, the imperial ancestor once again unleashed a powerful force, and the starlight around his body was brilliant like a silver saint armor. Alioth Palm moved the heavens. As soon as he finished speaking, the force stacked up, and 3,000 lightning haste. Along with the terrifying aura that was like a mountain, a giant silver hand once again pressed down, blasting towards the chaotic area below. It was obvious that the imperial ancestor didn't plan to give Chu Hen any chance to breathe. Chu Hen was definitely dead. This was the common thought of everyone in the imperial city, and the experts of the Hidden Wind region couldn't keep up with the imperial ancestor's speed. Especially when the giant silver hand blasted out, the imperial ancestor once again clasped his palms together, and an extremely agitated energy fluctuation caused the space to become restless. After the Alioth Palm, there was still the Migres shuttle. No matter what Chu Hen's current situation was, what awaited him was still destruction. Old Ginger was spicier than young Ginger. No matter how much of an upper hand he had, he didn't let his guard down. In the next moment, Luo Mengchang, Shilan, and Long Qingyang rushed forward at the same time, intending to be in front of Chu Hen and take this blow for him. However, the imperial ancestors' strength was much stronger than theirs, and the majestic pressure made them feel like they were being attacked by a torrent. It was a close shave. Just when countless people thought that Chu Hen would die for sure, a loud bang sound rang out, and a terrifying aura like a mountain torrent erupted from the chaotic ruins below. Chu Hen, who was covered in blood, was surrounded by gorgeous golden spirit tattoos, and his whole body was shining brightly like a sun. Chu Hen's purple eyes were as sharp as a blade, surging with a cold light. In an instant, the bright golden spirit tattoos that lingered around his body bloomed like a divine light, releasing thousands of spiritual lights. The space violently trembled. A golden pillar of light with peerless aura suddenly shot out from Chu Hen's hands, which were covered by holy light. With a momentum that could break the heavens, it shot up diagonally and charged towards the huge silver palm. The sky changed color and the clouds surged. The terrifying aura shook the sky. Heavenly spirits strike, Chu Hen's voice was like thunder, and it made people's eardrums feel like they were going to burst. The bright golden beam of light was solid, and its surface was covered with layers of flowing ripples. Its unstoppable aura was full of power, however. In the instant before the heavenly spiritual light pillar was about to strike the huge silver palm, purple light rose from within Chu Hen's body. A strange energy wave was quietly released, and the eyes that were staring at the sky suddenly opened, and the 4 black dots in the depths of his pupils rotated rapidly in an anti-clockwise direction. 4-star demonic eyes, silent burial. Boom! The space distorted, and a cold chill swept out. In an instant, a torrential sea of purple flames suddenly rose in the area in front of the heavenly spirit light pillar. The purple flames quickly spread out, covering the sky and covering the earth. The endless purple demonic flames emitted a furious aura. Aolo then, along with the destructive aura that stirred the sky, a dragon covered in purple flames scuttled out of the sea of flames. In the next instant, the heavenly spirit light pillar directly pierced through the purple demonic flames, and the purple dragon wrapped around it, fusing with it. In the blink of an eye, the light pillar was covered in spirals of purple demonic flames. Under Chu Hen's control, the 2 extremely destructive energies merged, releasing a boundless destructive aura. Boom! Tens of thousands of lightning bolts exploded in the sky, and surging waves of air covered the earth, sweeping through the sky. Under countless shocked gazes, the heavenly spirit pillar of light that was surrounded by purple demonic flames actually pierced through the enormous silver palm that was pressing down on it. The wind whistled, and the true essence danced wildly. The giant-like palm was easily pierced through by the light pillar. Then, the light pillar with raging purple flames didn't slow down at all. Like a meteor striking the moon, it swept up a dense destructive aura and blasted towards the imperial ancestor, who was even higher in the sky. What? The imperial ancestor's expression changed greatly. He never thought that the power of Chu Hen's attack would be so terrifying. He quickly separated his palms, and a crescent-shaped silver flying shuttle quietly formed. However, before the silver flying shuttle could be released, the heavenly spirit light pillar had already rushed in front of him. The purple flames covering it quickly gathered, and directly turned into a shocking purple dragon shadow roar. Boom! A surging wave of purple light suddenly exploded in the sky, and the golden light that resembled divine light attacked the imperial ancestor's position like a holy sword. The world became colorful in an instant, and a wave of chaotic energy soared into the sky, sweeping in all directions like a tsunami. In an instant, hurricanes and torrential rain swept across the entire capital. One palace after another was swept to the ground, and the wind and sand filled the air, setting off layers of shock waves along with the mighty aftershocks. Even the various forces outside the palace were shaken to the point of retreating. The powerful force almost shattered the space. Under everyone's trembling gaze, A figure covered in blood and tattered clothes quickly flew out. "Little bastard!" The imperial ancestor's voice was filled with shock and anger. He was extremely angry, and his killing intent surged. However, then, a cold voice quietly sounded. "What do you want?" "What?" This voice? Everyone's expression changed again, and their hearts were shocked again. Unknowingly, Chu Hen had already left the ground and flashed to a higher place in the sky. Chu Hen looked down at the imperial ancestor in front of him, and the corners of his mouth curled coldly. "Old man, you're finished, swish." As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Hen's mind moved, and a black cold spear floated in front of him. A powerful black light instantly covered the demon slayer spear. Chu Hen crossed his palms, and the four wings behind him released a divine sun holy light. Then, he pushed his palms out, and firmly hit the back of the demon slayer spear. Ling Tian, critical hit, swish. A circle of air rippled between heaven and earth, and the demon slayer spear, which had received a great push, shot out like an arrow leaving the bow. Holy light lingered, and air waves pierced through the sky. The powerful force tore through the air, like a flying arrow that traced back thousands of years. The imperial ancestor's pupils shrank, and an unprecedented fear immediately appeared on his old face. A thick aura of death pressed down all the way. Boom! Light patterns stirred up, chi waves surged, and the demon Punisher spear, which was swallowing and spitting out dazzling holy light, swept up a terrifying pressure, and firmly struck the Emperor Ancestor's Dantian. An incomparably strong tearing force tore apart his flesh, and the sharp spear tip hit the 9-rune Yuan core in the opponent's Dantian. A ray of light pierced through, and the Yuan core instantly exploded. A fist-sized bloody hole appeared on the Imperial Ancestor's body. Ah! The miserable scream made people's scalps go numb, and the scene in front of them made people tremble with fear. Once the Yuan core shattered, the Imperial Ancestor's aura was suppressed by Mount Tai, and he quickly retracted. The Demon Slayer spear let out a sharp trembling sound, and directly rushed down with the Imperial Ancestor's broken body, fiercely smashing into the ground. Blood danced in the air, and the atmosphere was chilling. Surging air waves spread out from the ground, and at this moment, the Imperial Ancestor was actually nailed to the ground by the ice-cold spear, unable to move. Chapter 600. Blood splattered everywhere as the demon slayed. Heavenly Spirit Strike, Demon Flame Burial. Boom! A powerful wave of air swept across the ground below. Rocks and gravel mixed with the surging wind blew in all directions. A series of deep cracks spread out rapidly. The entire imperial palace fell into an unprecedented deathly silence. Everyone's faces were pale to the extreme, and all of them were terrified and flabbergasted. The demon-slaying spear, which was swallowing and spitting out a sharp light, pierced through the Emperor Ancestor's abdomen and pinned him to the ground. Blood flowed endlessly from the wound. The Imperial Ancestor's eyes were wide open as he struggled on the ground like a grasshopper. Oh my God! Inside and outside the city, everyone in the Imperial City was extremely shocked and terrified. The sudden turn of events caught everyone off guard. Just a second ago, the Imperial Ancestor had been confident of victory, but in the blink of an eye, Chu Hen had turned the tables. This guy, Zhenju Yen Han Lu, let out a sigh of relief as a relaxed smile appeared on his face. Fu Qin, Ji Shu, Qi Ting, and Hua Shui looked at each other and saw the shock and astonishment in each other's eyes. The combination of the Sky Spirit Strike and the mysterious purple flames, the lethality of the attack was truly terrifying. Even Luo Mengshang, Shilan, Long Qingyang and the others had never imagined that Chu Hen would have such a move up his sleeve. The scene from before still hadn't recovered from the shock yet. Boom! Holy light swirled around him as his four wings shone brightly. Chu Hen stood proudly in the sky, his entire body exuding a cold and powerful aura. Even though he was covered in blood and dirt, he gave everyone the feeling that he was an insurmountable mountain that no one could move. Chu Hen swept a cold glance at the experts from the Imperial Ancestor's side. his thunderous voice piercing everyone's ears. If anyone dares to move, blood will flow like a river in the imperial capital today. The shocking and monstrous aura shocked everyone present. The faces of the imperial family changed again and again. All of them felt as if their throats were being squeezed, and they couldn't help but tremble. Kill them, the imperial ancestor, who was pinned to the ground by the frightening demon slayer spear, struggled while roaring hysterically. He was unwilling, absolutely unwilling. He was the ruler of the Sacred Star dynasty. How could he allow a traitor to ruin the foundation of his dynasty? A cold smile appeared on Chu Hen's face as he looked at the other party indifferently. Old fart, you're like an old tortoise lying on the ground right now. What right do you have to make a fuss here? Wah! The imperial ancestor coughed up a mouthful of blood. His eyes were red with anger as he stared at Chu Hen with extreme hatred. Little bastard, if you want to kill me, then kill me. The descendant of the imperial family, I will definitely not let you off. Chu Hen smiled. His smile was incomparably mocking. Shortly after, his gaze turned cold and a cold glint flickered within his eyes. Old fart, thanks to your blessing, the entire imperial family will be buried with you today. Chu Hen paused for a moment before shouting again, everyone from the Hidden Wind region, listen up. Yes. Long Qingyang and the others' eyes turned cold. Kill everyone from the imperial family. Today, the imperial capital will be bathed in blood. Yes. In an instant, the heroes from the Hidden Wind region gathered together again and charged at the imperial family with a strong murderous intent. Once the imperial ancestor was defeated, the imperial family became fish on the chopping board. Their morale was greatly reduced, and they couldn't even think of resisting. In the midst of the chaos, they were killed by the people from the Hidden Wind region. The imperial ancestor was extremely furious. He scratched the ground as if he had gone mad, and at the same time, he kept cursing at Chu Hen. The sky was filled with murderous intent and screams. Blood rained down, and teachers and students were everywhere. The bright red area continued to spread in the imperial palace. The sky darkened and the massacre took place. It was like a scene from hell. Looking at the tragic scene in front of them, the people outside the imperial palace were already trembling with fear, and chills ran down their spines. Sigh. The Sacred Star Empire is finished. In a secluded area, Principal Jiang sighed deeply and patted the shoulder of the great general of West Sea. Yu Shihai frowned and clenched his fists. His face was filled with many complicated emotions. The outcome had been decided, and everything was about to end. Stop. Right at this moment, a chilly voice of a woman shouted at the members of the Hidden Wind region, and then a beautiful and graceful figure flashed over. Let them go, she looked at Chu Hen. Her pair of limpid autumn eyes were suffused with shallow ripples and sorrow. Chu Hen looked at her and raised his hand, signaling the people from the Hidden Wind region to stop. Looking at the beautiful and familiar face, Huang Fuqing's delicate body trembled slightly. Her red lips were slightly open, and her beautiful black hair was dancing in the wind. She looked extraordinary. Their eyes met, and there were many complicated emotions in them. Let them go. I am willing to die in your hands, Huang Fuqing said softly, and there was a trace of pleading between her willow-like slender eyebrows. A cold wind blew over, and a pile of fallen leaves floated down from nowhere. In Chu Hen's mind, the scene where he met Xia Qing involuntarily emerged. The two of them were like parallel tracks that would never cross each other's path. But who would have thought that a chance encounter in the Demon Beast mountain range would tie the hearts of these two people with different destinies? You have never betrayed me, so how could I kill you? After a long silence, Chu Hen's eyes suddenly turned cold, and an extremely violent destructive aura leaked out from his body. Then, Chu Hen flicked his finger, and a dazzling golden beam of light burst out, sweeping up a huge killing intent toward the imperial ancestor below. No! Huang Fuqing turned pale with fright. The imperial ancestor's face changed dramatically, and his widened eyes reflected the dazzling beam of light. Boom! The earth trembled, and the imperial palace shook. A huge pit rapidly expanded, and under countless shocked gazes, the imperial ancestor's body was directly smashed into pieces. Rocks tumbled, and flesh and blood flew everywhere. A badly mutilated arm flew out and broke into pieces. It was an incomparably wretched sight. The sacred Star Empire's imperial ancestor was destroyed. This scene once again shocked the imperial family and the various forces outside the imperial city. They were at a loss, and their faces turned ashen. The wind blew, and the sky changed color. A desolate aura filled the sky, and it enveloped the entire space. The young figure standing proudly in the void was cold and frightening. At this moment, everyone couldn't help but think of the oath that Chu Hen swore before he left the imperial city. I, Chu Hen, swear that if I don't destroy your sacred Star Empire, I am not a man. Now, he did it. His power was like thunder, and the battle was shocking. 2 years ago, he cut off one of the Divine Empress's shoulders in front of everyone. 2 years later, he still killed the imperial ancestor in front of everyone in the city, leaving not even a trace behind. What had happened today would become an indelible mark in the memories of everyone present. Ashes filled the sky, and it was time for another year's flowers to bloom. Blood flowed like a river, and the storm rose again. It was the day of revenge. After killing the imperial ancestor, Chu Hen coldly stared at Huang Fuqing, who was in front of him, and said in a deep voice, I will give you 3 days to disband the imperial family. Otherwise, I will kill all of you. Huang Fuqing's jade-like hands clenched into fists. Her nails dug into her palms, and she felt a stabbing pain. She looked at Chu Hen, and sadness flashed in her eyes. Her voice was choked with sobs. Thank you. This thank you was full of complex emotions, and there was a great deal of helplessness and bitterness. In the next 3 days, the entire imperial city, and even the sacred Star Empire, fell into an unprecedented chaos. Compared to the turmoil that happened 2 years ago, this time it was even more earth-shattering. The death of the imperial ancestor was a huge blow to the sacred Star Empire. Because of Huang Fuqing's pleading, the rest of the imperial family finally escaped. She couldn't lead the imperial family to fight back, so she could only disband the imperial power. Once the imperial power was disbanded, it meant that the sacred Star Empire no longer belonged to Huang Fu. All the organizations were disbanded, and all the nobles fell to the ground. Moreover, on the night that the war ended, news came from the imperial palace that the Divine Empress committed suicide by hanging herself in her bedroom. The imperial ancestor was dead, and the Divine Empress was dead. The imperial family of the sacred Star Empire was really dead. After that, the news spread to the entire 100 Nations prefecture. All the forces and sects that received the news were shocked. In particular, the Misty Wind Nation, Giant Rock Nation, Heaven Net Nation, and the other big nations were shocked. The imperial power of a generation was gone just like that. The imperial city was filled with wails and howls for a few days. All the people in the city couldn't sleep at night. On the 3rd day, the entire imperial palace was empty. The carved railings and jade walls were still there, but no one could be seen. All the direct descendants of the imperial family left the imperial city. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. Now that the imperial power was gone, the sacred Star Empire couldn't contain them anymore. It was already a great gift that Chu Hen didn't kill them all. Leaving was the best choice. In these few days, Chu Hen and the people from the wind-hidden region temporarily stayed in the Tensei prefecture. The Tensei prefecture that had been deserted for 2 years was bustling with noise and excitement again. Chu Hen, now that the imperial family is gone, do you have any thoughts? In the hall, Principal Zhang's dispirited expression was swept away as he looked at him with bright eyes. Without waiting for Chu Hen to speak, the Heavenly Beast sect master, Dong Guohong, spoke first. In my opinion, young Master Chu can replace him and become the emperor. With your strength and us brothers, it's not impossible for you to dominate a region of the prefecture. That's right. I agree. Dongguohong's suggestion received the support of Green Willow Manor's Hai Buang and sword-crafting cities Pei Shao. At this point, the three old foxes could sigh with emotion. They finally didn't stand on the wrong side this time. Chu Hen was indeed someone who could accomplish great things. At that time, the three of them had unwillingly rejected Chu Hen. Now they were afraid that even if Chu Hen chased them away, they would still have to rely on the family of generals. Everyone looked at Chu Hen, waiting for his reply. Chapter 601. Imperial authority is hard to pass on, and I'm used to being lazy. This matter isn't within my consideration. Chu Hen looked at the crowd in the hall and calmly voiced his thoughts. In fact, it was a dream for anyone to control a country and become an emperor who stood above tens of thousands of people. Although Chu Hen was slightly tempted, it was nothing compared to his determination to reach the peak of martial Dao. That's right, Chu Hen can't be the emperor. He still has to return to Mount Kunliu with us. Hua Shui interjected with slight dissatisfaction. Chu Hen smiled. Don't worry. I'll do what I promised you. However, Dongguohong, Hai Buang, and the others couldn't help but feel disappointed when they saw Chu Hen refuse. After this incident, they indeed wanted to establish an even greater force with Chu Hen. That's fine. I have an idea. Since young Master Chu Hen isn't willing to be the emperor, then let leader Long Qingyang be the emperor, Hai Buang said. Everyone looked at Long Qingyang on the other side. That's a good idea. Leader Long is young and promising, and he's young Master Chu's older brother. I think it's feasible. That's right, haha. Chu Hen looked at Long Qingyang with interest, but the latter shook his head and smiled in shame. Everyone thinks too highly of me. I can't be the emperor. Why? Everyone else is fighting to be the emperor, but you two brothers are great. One is unwilling and the other is unwilling. Why don't I be the emperor? I, Dongguohong, want to create an invincible army of demon beasts. Go, piss off. Before Dongguohong could finish, Pei Shao pushed him away. You want to be the emperor with this kind of behavior? Go back and raise those beasts of yours. Hey, old Pei, what are you saying? I should be the one asking you. What are you saying? Why don't you say you want to be the Jade Emperor? Humph, I want to be. I'm afraid I'll be punished by the heavens. So you know you'll be punished by the heavens? Quickly go home and see if your heavenly beast sect has been burned down by someone. Who else but you would be so wicked? The few of them scolded each other without regard for their status, causing the surrounding people to be speechless. Usually, these old fellows were quite sinister and cunning. Unexpectedly, there was actually a time when they were so improper. Principal Jiang did not have much of a smile on his face. Instead, he looked slightly worried. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, Dean, are you worried that once the royal family is destroyed, the Sacred Star Dynasty will lose its ruler and the people in the country will lose their system of governance? By then, there will be chaos in various regions? Principal Jiang nodded. Hearing Chu Hen's words, everyone in the hall couldn't help but quiet down. Indeed, after the battle between Chu Hen and the imperial ancestor, the royal family had disintegrated, and the Sacred Star Dynasty was without a leader. At that time, the Bai from each of the major cities would be able to do whatever they wanted without proper management. It wouldn't be long before the entire dynasty would descend into chaos. Just thinking about it was enough to know how chaotic the future would be. No matter what, Principal Jiang, as well as Chu Hen and the rest, had all grown up in the Sacred Star Dynasty. If the people in the country were to be destroyed because of this, that was not what Chu Hen wanted to see. Regarding this matter, I have already thought it through, Chu Hen said. Oh! Everyone's eyes lit up, revealing a look of anticipation. Chu Hen looked at Long Qingyang and said, I plan to ask Big Brother to move the clan of generals back here. Long Qingyang nodded. He wasn't too surprised. The Hidden Wind region was originally the temporary residence of the clan of generals. At the end of the day, the Sacred Star dynasty was the Long family's root. If they could return, he believed that every member of the clan of generals would be very willing. After moving the clan of generals back, we'll work together with the 30 advanced martial houses and engraver guild in the capital to unify the dynasty. Chu Hen explained. After hearing Chu Hen's words, Principal Zhang's eyes couldn't help but light up. Ever since the Sacred Star dynasty was established, the advanced martial houses had an extremely high status in the hearts of the people. The growth of a dynasty was inseparable from the fresh blood of the younger generation. If one wanted to nurture the next generation of talents, they would need the guidance of the advanced martial houses. Therefore, the high-ranked martial houses always had a deep-rooted sense of dignity towards people. As for the engraver guild, there was no need to mention it. No matter where it was, an engraver was a noble profession that people envied and respected. Inviting them to participate in the management of the dynasty would only convince more people. Cheating, Chu Hen suddenly said. What's the matter? Cheating, who was standing at the side, walked up and said in a rough voice, "Help me send a letter of divorce to His Majesty of the Gigantic Rock Dynasty. Tell him that the clan of General intends to form an alliance with the Gigantic Rock Dynasty and achieve 100 generations of goodwill. If the Sacred Star Dynasty is in trouble in the future, I hope that His Majesty will generously help us. At the same time, if Boulder Dynasty is in trouble, the Sacred Star Dynasty will also do its best to help." That's it? There's no need to write a letter. I'll agree on behalf of His Majesty. Cheating confidently patted his chest. When Chu Hen took over Great Cloud City, the Boulder Dynasty's imperial family had the intention of befriending Chu Hen. This was also why His Majesty had Cheating follow by Chu Hen's side. Now that Chu Hen had displayed the power to destroy a dynasty, the Boulder Dynasty might not even have enough time to curry favor with the clan of generals. Not to mention befriending them. Chu Hen waved his hand slightly. Etiquette is still necessary. If His Majesty Boulder Dynasty agrees, please send me an imperial edict. No problem, Cheating replied. Lu Qi. Chu Hen looked at him. Lu Qi nodded and stepped forward. You too. Help me write a letter to His Majesty Wu Feng. Tell him that the clan of generals is willing to form an alliance with him. We'll support each other in the future. If he agrees, send me a silk letter. All right, leave it to me. Chu Hen's way of doing things was very efficient. The people on both sides were stunned, but when they saw how thoughtful the other party was, Principal Zhang's lightly furrowed brows relaxed. His wrinkled face was full of praise. On the inside, there were high-ranked martial houses and the Runemaster's Guild. On the outside, there were the Boulder Dynasty and the Misty Wind Dynasty. In this way, the internal and external troubles were not even worth mentioning. What about us? Young Master Chu? Green Willow Manor's master, Hai Buong, hurriedly walked over. That's right? What should we do? Don't forget about us. Of course you'll return to your Hidden Wind region after receiving your rewards. Yen Hanlu said with a smile. Ah. The three of them were somewhat disappointed. What are you about? Weren't you all unwilling to come back then? Luo Mengchang also smiled. That's right, we were all seething with anger back then. And you, that Mr. Donghua, even said that he wanted to start a war with us. Have you all forgotten? Su Yorong also joined in on the scolding. After being scolded by these people, the three of them felt a little embarrassed. At that time, they were not clear about Chu Hen's strength and thought that they would only be sending themselves to death if they followed them. Moreover, they were forced to follow Chu Hen because of the heart-rending ghost talisman. Who would have thought that the Sacred Star Dynasty would be destroyed just like that? Looking at the three of them embarrassed, Chu Hen said with a smile, "If the three of you are willing, you can join our grand alliance. From now on, we'll share blessings and misfortunes together." The three of them immediately brightened up and nodded in agreement. the Heavenly Beast Sect, Green Willow Manor, and Sword Crafting City. Because the Hidden Wind region was too small, the development of the three great forces was limited. However, once they joined the Sacred Star Dynasty, the resources that they could obtain would definitely increase by several times. The potential for future development was especially huge. Similarly, the three forces had their own unique characteristics, especially the Heavenly Beast Sect and Sword Crafting City. One trained demonic beasts to fight, while the other was a weapon-crafting family. With their addition, the strength of the family of generals would increase. To the overall strength of the dynasty, there would definitely be indescribable benefit. Principal Jiang watched silently, and in his heart, he admired Chu Hen even more. Not only was this person extremely talented, but he was also extraordinarily intelligent. In the future, he would definitely become someone great. Principal Jiang secretly rejoiced. Saving Chu Hen in the past was indeed a wise move. In the following days, the chaos in the Imperial City gradually calmed down. However, there were still riots in the various cities of the Sacred Star Dynasty. Many influential forces that relied on the imperial family suffered from the revenge of their enemies because they lost their backing. Chaotic battles broke out everywhere, and the flames of war were everywhere. The ones who suffered the most were the ordinary citizens. It was also because of this series of chaotic situations that Chu Hen had to constantly reorganize the management of the imperial city. After 2 years, the Tensei Prefecture once again became extremely lively. The mentors and students who were forced to leave returned one after another. Even many old students who had already left the academy returned one after another. Li Hui, Zhou Lu, He Qingyuan, Bai Yue Ji Xian, Xiao Yan, and many other disciples of Chu Hen gathered in the academy. Haha, I entered the academy in the same year as senior brother Chu Hen. TSK, you have the nerve to say that. Chu Hen is already at the 7th level of the void-piercing realm, and you are only at the core transformation realm. How embarrassing. F***ck Zhou Lu, if you dare to expose me again, I will tell senior brother Chu Hen that you have a crush on him. You are courting death. Li Hui, believe it or not, I will skin you alive. The Tensei Prefecture was extremely lively, and the usual desolation was washed away. Song Qinglai stretched his limbs lazily and felt the warm sunlight. He said with satisfaction, "This is what an academy should be like. Didn't you say you are leaving?" A smiling figure came over. Shadowless was holding 2 jugs of wine in his hands, and he threw one to Song Qinglai. Song Qinglai took the wine and drank a few mouthfuls, letting out a satisfied hiss. Haha, 100-years-old wine, you are finally willing to take out the good wine that you have hidden under your bed for 10 years. Shadowless smiled and said, I originally planned to take it out when we leave the imperial capital and go far away. Are we still leaving now? Song Qinglai shook his head. I'm not leaving. I still prefer watching those little brats slowly grow into big brats in my hands. I have already taken root in the Tensei Prefecture. I hope this is the final decision between us brothers. It must be. Song Qinglai said firmly. His gaze swept towards the square in the central area of the Tensei Prefecture, and he muttered, He will change an era. Roar! The roar of a ferocious beast resounded in all directions. A huge domineering beast soared into the sky, causing everyone in the imperial capital to look up. At this moment, in the central square of the Tensei Prefecture, Chu Hen stood on a stone platform. Long Qingyang, Luo Mingshang, Su Yorong, Principal Jiang, and the others stood behind him. In the area in front of the stone platform, 2 rows of wide chairs were placed in order. Chapter 602. The deans of the various martial houses have arrived. A thunderous voice resounded from the entrance of the Tensei Prefecture to the plaza of the middle school. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows and nodded slightly as he looked ahead. Chu Hen, although you killed the emperor ancestor and destroyed an entire dynasty, these old fellows all crawled their entire lives in order to sit in the position of dean. Compared to them, they aren't particularly afraid of death, so it'll be a little difficult for you to convince them," Dean Jiang said in a low voice. As the dean of the Tensei Prefecture, he was very familiar with the administrators of the other academies. After all, they were people who had lived for more than half their lives. To them, death was not the thing they feared the most. For example, if Dean Jiang was afraid of death, he would not have offended the imperial family in order to help Chu Hen escape from the Sacred Star dynasty. Chu Hen nodded to show that he understood. Very soon, the deans of the various martial houses were approaching from afar. At the front were the administrators of the 5 academies. They were Imperial Martial Academies Guandu, Giant Elephant Martial Palaces Kwangwei, Spirit Rhino Martial Palaces Sushi, Tifeng Provinces Yuyen, and a female dean of the Bright Moon Academy. These deans were all familiar faces. Chu Hen knew all of them. During the Earth Ranking Tournament, all the deans of the martial houses were present. Over the past 2 years, there hadn't been much change in the group. "Deans, please take a seat." Chu Hen's attitude was rather courteous as he waited for everyone to walk in front of him. Everyone looked at each other and hesitated for a moment before they sat down in the seats below the stage. Only Imperial Martial Academies Guandu and Imperial Wind Academies Yuyen had no intention of sitting. Chu Hen, if you have something to say, just say it. Don't play this peaceful first before resorting to force, trick in front of us," Guandu said coldly. Imperial Martial Academy had the closest relationship with the imperial family. Now that the royal family had been destroyed, Guandu, as the dean, naturally harbored a grudge against Chu Hen. In addition to the grudges between Chu Hen and the geniuses of Imperial Wind Academy, the relationship between the two sides was not harmonious. Chu Hen smiled faintly and said faintly, "The reason I've invited all of you here today is already stated clearly in the invitation letter." You want us to follow your orders? Dream on." Imperial Wind Academy's Dean Yu Yen said decisively. As soon as they arrived, they didn't give Chu Hen any face at all. Seeing this situation, the deans of the other martial houses also became restless. As far as they were concerned, Chu Hen's actions were nothing more than asking them to surrender. However, as long as they had the slightest bit of courage, they would not submit to him. "Everyone, Chu Hen doesn't have any thoughts of replacing the royal family to become the emperor," Principal Jiang stood out and advised. "Right now, the Saint Star Empire is in a state of chaos. The various administrative areas are in constant internal strife. If we don't unite together to take control, this country will completely fall. I hope all of you can consider the people of the country." "What a joke!" Guandu waved his hand and pointed at Chu Hen behind him. He said, "Who's the person who caused this situation today? It's him. Now all of you are pretending to be considerate of the people of the country. This is the biggest joke in the world. You're so stubborn. Let me ask you, what's in it for you to do this?" In any case, I won't submit to anyone. If I don't agree, the Imperial Martial Academy behind me won't agree as well. If there's nothing else, then forgive me for not accompanying you." Guandu flicked his sleeve and turned to leave. When the deans of the other martial houses saw this, they stood up one after another and prepared to leave. The older, the wiser. To a person who wasn't even afraid of death, it was indeed difficult to threaten him. Headmaster Jiang shook his head. This result was within his expectations. However, at this moment, a calm voice came out of Chu Hen's mouth. "What did Dean Guandu say just now? Can you repeat it again?" Everyone was stunned. They turned to look at Chu Hen, only to see that there was not the slightest fluctuation of emotion on his face. Guandu sneered and pointed at Chu Hen. He said, "So what if I say it again? This dean isn't afraid of death like some people. I definitely won't submit to you, and my Imperial Martial Academy won't agree." "Wait!" Chu Hen directly interrupted him and said with a faint smile, "It's fine as long as you don't agree. As for Imperial Martial Academy, you don't have the right to make a decision for them. What did you say? Guan Du frowned. Chu Hen took a few steps forward, his calm eyes gradually becoming deep. Don't you understand what I mean? From today onwards, you're no longer the Dean of Imperial Martial Academy. I'll give you 1 day to scram from Imperial Martial Academy. Otherwise, I'll ask you to scram. Waves of coldness spread out and rushed into everyone's hearts. Guan Du stared at Chu Hen's cold face in disbelief. He angrily scolded, "No, you don't have the right. Imperial Martial Academy was founded by me. It's my martial palace. You don't have the right to chase me away." Humph. A trace of mockery appeared on Chu Hen's face as he said in a forceful tone, "Whether I have the right or not isn't up to you to decide. Even the imperial family is no longer surnamed Huangfu. What right do you have to yell in front of me?" Guan Du's expression changed abruptly. His previously resolute expression turned into panic as he continued, "Imperial Martial Academy won't agree. If I leave, Imperial Martial Academy will be finished. It's the best academy in the Saint Star dynasty. If Imperial Martial is destroyed, all the martial palaces in the Imperial City will be finished." "You're wrong. The best high-ranked martial palace will never be Imperial Martial." Chu Hen raised his finger and pointed at Principal Jiang beside him. His voice was like thunder and his aura was like a mountain. "The Earth Rankings Champion is a student from Tensei Prefecture. The Heaven Rankings Champion is also from Tensei Prefecture. Today, the person who destroyed the Saint Star dynasty is from Tensei Prefecture. Let me ask you, Imperial Martial Academy, do you think you have the right to call yourself the leader of the martial palaces?" Buzz! The huge aura suppressed everyone to the point that they did not even dare to breathe loudly. Principal Jiang, who was standing at the side, could not help but clench his fists tightly. His old eyes were filled with a strange light. "You?" Guan Du looked at Chu Hen with a trembling voice. He had completely lost his previous unyielding attitude. This was Guan Du's Achilles heel. This was the biggest weakness of the leaders of the high-ranked martial palaces. Among them, there were indeed some who were not afraid of death. However, what was even more terrifying than death was to watch their painstaking efforts being mercilessly taken away or trampled on by someone else. It was obvious that the martial palaces were the painstaking efforts that they had painstakingly protected for most of their lives. Once they lost this glory, it was equivalent to destroying everything. Chu Hen coldly stared at the crowd and revealed an invisible domineering aura. "I have already made it very clear when I invited you here today. I will say it one last time. If you don't want to continue being the Martial Palace's dean, you can get lost. But if you still think that you have the qualifications to go against me, then I can only regretfully tell you that I have a lot of talented people on my side who can replace your positions." Roar! As soon as Chu Hen's voice fell, the Shi Yen evil dragon hovering above Tensei Prefecture directly let out an earth-shattering roar. A pair of giant wings flapped. Surging waves of air stacked up and covered the sky. It set off a terrifying aura of a fierce beast that was as hard to shake as a mountain. A threat. An undisguised threat. Everyone was so scared that their faces turned deathly pale. It was only at this moment that the Martial Palace's deans realized how ignorant they were. They mistakenly thought that since Chu Hen had sent them an invitation, he had the conditions to negotiate with them. They thought that as long as they were not afraid of death, Chu Hen could not do anything to them. However, he did not know that it was this kind of misunderstanding that had directly destroyed the politeness of treating him with courtesy. Chu Hen was not afraid that they would rebel. Even if he killed them all, he could still find people to replace them. After all, there were so many capable people in the Hidden Wind region. Recruiting 30 people was more than enough. However, if he did so, it would take a longer time to reorganize. In addition, the deans were clear about the operation of their respective martial palace. Therefore, it was relatively easier to integrate the original team. However, a person's patience was limited. Even the imperial family had been destroyed. How could Chu Hen not be able to do anything to these old fellows? What? Nobody wants to say anything? If anyone wants to go back, you can go now, Chu Hen said indifferently. Everyone was silent, especially the two deans, Di Feng and Huang Wu. They lowered their heads and clenched their teeth. Their hearts were filled with resentment. On one hand, they did not want to submit to Chu Hen, but on the other hand, they did not want to give up their life's work. Since nobody wants to leave, does that mean that you agree to my previous proposal? Chu Hen asked again. After a moment of silence, one of the deans finally made his choice. The Thunder Martial Palace is willing to join the Academy's alliance. Very good. A faint smile appeared on Chu Hen's face. The Falcon Academy is also willing. The Southern Wind Martial Palace is also willing. With a leader, the rest of the people no longer had any misgivings. They all expressed their willingness to join. Subsequently, the Giant Elephant Academy, Spirit Rhino Academy, and Bright Moon Academy also stood in Chu Hen's team. Di Feng and Huang Wu fell into a dilemma. Then, they clenched their teeth and went with the flow, standing with the rest of the team. Seeing how easily Chu Hen settled the deans, Long Qingyang, Luo Mengshang, Shilan, and the others were secretly happy. Once these people gave in, it would save them a lot of trouble. Thank you, seniors, for your concern. Today, we will establish the Academy's alliance, and Dean Jiang will be the president. Does anyone have any objections? Chu Hen's tone became more polite this time. However, everyone knew that just because he was polite, it did not mean that he was being polite. Nobody dared to have any objections. They could only nod in agreement. Dean Jiang will be the president of the alliance. In addition, Dean Quang Wei, Dean Su Shi, Dean Yu Yan, and Dean Guan Du will be the vice presidents, Chu Hen said in a loud voice. When he said that, everyone's heart was startled, especially Yu Yan and Guan Du. The two of them looked at each other. Just now, Chu Hen had the aura of wanting to kill the two of them, but now, he actually gave them a heavy responsibility. This change in attitude was too fast, catching the two of them off guard. Chu Hen did not explain much. He continued in seclusion, "These 6 presidents will be the highest management of the alliance. The rest of the deans will be the conference elders. Everything related to the jurisdiction of the martial academies will be decided by the conference elders. Once the matter is important, they will have to participate in the discussion, and the president will decide." Chu Hen's explanation was more clear and detailed. The deans nodded one after another. At this moment they finally understood. Chu Hen did not plan to establish a dynasty or empire. This meant that in a country without imperial power, the Academy's alliance would have great power in the future. At the thought of this, the deans actually felt a little less resentful. Instead, they felt a little more anticipation. Power was often something that moved countless people. About an hour later, all the deans in the imperial city left the Heavenly Star Martial House in a calm and peaceful manner. The establishment of the Academy's alliance was much easier than they had imagined. After the deans left, the Tensei Prefecture erupted in joyous celebration. Haha, congratulations to Dean Jiang for becoming the president of the alliance. Dean Jiang is righteous and benevolent. Indeed, you're the best candidate to be the president. Dean Jiang, I'll leave the Saint Star dynasty to you in the future, Chu Hen said solemnly. To be honest, it was not easy to come up with a new governing body. However, since the imperial family had been destroyed, Chu Hen had the responsibility to stabilize this chaotic dynasty. Dean Jiang nodded solemnly. I'll do my best. At this moment, a figure hurriedly ran over from afar. Senior brother Chu Hen, the people from the Inscription Masters Guild are here. The Inscription Masters Guild. It was a special group whose influence was not inferior to the 30 high-ranked martial academies. They were not afraid of imperial power, and they were not afraid of disobedient officials. However, nobody could deny the importance of their existence. If they wanted to come up with a new governing system, it was necessary to rope in the Inscription Masters Guild. How many Inscription Masters are here? Chu Hen asked. That. The person answered hesitantly. Only 3 Inscription Masters are here. 3? Chapter 603. Please have some tea. Senior Brother Chu Hen will be here soon under the hospitality of a student from the Heavenly Star Marshall House. The 2 men and the woman arrived at a unique garden. The 3 nodded. A middle-aged man in a blue robe said politely, "Thank you. Mr. Yu-da, you're welcome. Senior Brother Chu Hen told me to treat you well. Please let me know if you need anything." "Thank you." These 3 were none other than the 3 senior runemasters who had helped Chu Hen repair the illusionary spirit bell. They were Yu-da, Zhu Tong, and Wen Hong. After the Heavenless tournament, Chu Hen had brought the illusionary spirit bell to the Runemaster Guild to have it repaired. Coincidentally, he had met Yu-da, who wanted to befriend him. Yu-da had invited Zhu Tong and 2 other senior runemasters to help. However, due to the conflict between Chu Hen and Zhen Yi, Zhen Danquan's niece, Zhen Yi, had caused the other 2 senior runemasters to be absent. In the end, Chu Hen and Wen Hong were substitute. The 4 worked together. After a difficult process, they had successfully repaired the illusionary spirit bell. It was also because of that incident that the relationship between Chu Hen and the 3 of them improved greatly. However, they did not expect that the death of Wei Qinfan would cause an uproar in the capital. Chu Hen was also forced to flee to the Sacred Star Empire. After 2 years, Chu Hen had returned. He first destroyed the Wei clan, bathed the imperial residence in blood, and then killed the imperial family. Even now, the 3 of them still felt that these earth-shattering events were inconceivable. "Big Brother Yu, Sister Wen Hong, Big Brother Zhu Tong, you're here." At this moment, a hearty laughter came from the entrance of the garden. The 3's eyes lit up. They saw Chu Hen walking towards them as if there was wind under his feet. "Brother Chu Hen, it's great to be able to see you." Big Yu's expression was somewhat excited. To be honest, they were worried that Chu Hen would not like them because of the difference in status between them. Now, it seemed that his previous thoughts were for nothing. "Elder Brother Yu, take a seat." Chu Hen smiled and invited the 3 of them to sit in front of the stone table. The 3 of them were more or less a bit restrained. After all, the present was different from the past. Especially after personally witnessing Chu Hen torturing and killing the imperial ancestor, they felt that the difference between them and Chu Hen was even greater. Chu Hen naturally knew what the 3 of them were thinking. He smiled and said, "Brother Yu, Sister Wen Hong, Brother Zhu Tong, you don't have to restrain yourselves. I, Chu Hen, have always been fair when making friends. How it was in the past, how it is now. We're overthinking things." With Chu Hen's words, the estrangement between the 3 of them dissipated. "Brother Yu, have you become a spiritual tattooist?" Chu Hen asked in surprise. "Yes." Yuda's face showed a touch of confidence. 2 years ago, after the incident in the capital, the 3 of us traveled together and made some small gains. Half a year ago, your brother Zhu Tong and I both entered the realm of first-grade spiritual tattooists. As for your sister Wen Hong, she has also reached the peak of a 9th-grade senior tattooist. It won't be long before she also breaks through. Congratulations, haha. Don't make fun of us, you brat. Compared with you, the 3 of us are far behind. Wen Hong pursed her lips and laughed. The 3 of them could vaguely feel the huge Reiki energy fluctuation from Chu Hen. Especially when Chu Hen could easily break Zhen Danquan's Tiangang inverse killing formation, it was enough to show that his attainments in the art of runes were far beyond theirs. They couldn't help but sigh again. The change that happened to Chu Hen was really too big. Fortunately, they chose to be friends with Chu Hen, otherwise they wouldn't be sitting on the same level as him today. Brother Yu, are you here on behalf of the Tattooist Guild? After a simple greeting, Chu Hen began to get to the point. Yuda first looked at Wen Hong and Zhu Tong, then nodded and said, Yes, President Xiao Yong sent the three of us here. Xiao Yong, the former president of the Tattooist Guild. Previously, he lost his position because of Zhen Danxuan's exclusion. After Zhen Danxian died, he returned to the guild. There's no harm in speaking your mind, Chu Hen said calmly. President Xiao Yong's meaning is very simple and firm. Zhu Tong pursed his lips, raised his eyelids and said in a low voice, he said he won't join any forces. This answer was not out of Chu Hen's expectation. Otherwise, there would be more than just 3 people from the Engraver Guild. What's the reason? Chu Hen asked. Based on our understanding of the president, he's a person who doesn't want to be restrained and he's never moved by power. Originally, the person that the imperial family wanted to rope in was the president. However, because the president wasn't willing to work for the imperial family, the imperial ancestor looked for Zhen Danxian and helped him eliminate President Xiao Yong. Yuda explained. Does President Xiao Yong have any weaknesses? That. The three of them looked at each other. Chu Hen smiled. He knew that he had said something wrong. After all, they had followed President Xiao Yong for many years. How could they tell him this kind of thing? Brother Yu, please don't blame me. I was just asking casually. You don't have to pay attention to it. It's all right. Yuda waved his hand and replied, to be honest, the 3 of us were brought up by the president and you're our good friend. We actually hope to see him ally with you. This way, no matter if it's the Tattooist Guild or the Sacred Star Empire, it'll be beneficial. Brother Yu is broad-minded, I'm impressed. Brother, you must be joking. Yuda looked slightly guilty and continued, if there's a weakness of President Xiao Yong, I'm afraid it's only one. Chu Hen's eyes lit up slightly. That's the art of runes. The art of runes. That's right. Among the many tattooists that I've seen, President Xiao Yong can definitely be called the rune madman. No matter what kind of art of runes he's researched, he's very thorough. Moreover, he often creates all kinds of art of runes. His passion for art of runes is far greater than others. To be honest, President Xiao Yong's attainments in the art of runes were not much inferior to Zhen Danxuan's. In terms of experience, President Xiao Yong might even surpass Zhen Danxian. However, in comparison, Zhen Danxuan's reputation was slightly greater. If the two of them were to really compete, it wasn't certain who would have the last laugh. Therefore, due to the obstruction of the imperial family, Zhen Danxian pushed Xiao Yong out. This made Xiao Yong, who didn't like to be under someone else's command, even more disgusted with the imperial power. Although Chu Hen had stated that he wouldn't replace the imperial family, he still had the final say. If he joined the alliance, it would be equivalent to joining Chu Hen's faction. With so many reasons, Xiao Yong wouldn't even consider this matter. Of course, Xiao Yong was also a smart person. He didn't want to offend Chu Hen. Therefore, he asked Yuda and the other 2 who had a good relationship with Chu Hen to reply. Soon, Chu Hen had a rough understanding of Xiao Yong's character. He raised his eyebrows and his eyes flashed with confidence. I have an idea. Oh! Yuda and the other 2 stared at him in surprise. Chu Hen looked at them mysteriously. I need the 3 of you to help me with this matter. Also, don't worry, President Xiao Yong won't blame you. Time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, it was already evening. Yuda, Zhu Tong, and Wen Hong stayed at Chu Hen's place until the sky turned dark. No one knew what they talked about. However, what everyone could be sure of was that the Engraver Association definitely rejected Chu Hen. And Xiao Yong wasn't as easy to deal with as the deans of the major martial houses. As a spiritual tattooist, even if Xiao Yong left the capital, there would still be a group of people following him. It was different for the deans of the major martial houses. If they were driven out of the capital, they would really lose everything. Therefore, the chance that Chu Hen could settle Xiao Yong was very slim in the eyes of outsiders. The Tattooist Guild. In the quiet backyard, through a beautiful garden and a long corridor, Yuda and the other two finally came to an antique attic. The attic was brightly lit, and a figure could be vaguely seen reading by candlelight at night. "President," Yuda said softly with respect. "Speak." A deep and resounding voice came from inside. "We've already completed the task that you've entrusted us with." "Did it go well?" "Not particularly well." "What? Did Chu Hen fly into a rage? Want to destroy our tattooist guild?" "Not really." Yuda denied and said hesitantly, "Chu Hen said he wanted to ask you for advice on runes." The voice inside was even more surprised. What advice? What if he lost? What if he won? Yuda shook his head. He didn't say anything. He just wanted you to break a formation. Hey, this brat doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Does he think he can fly after breaking Zhen Danxuan's Tiangang reverse kill formation? Just say I have no time. Got it. I'll go and return the formation to him. Wait, you said he gave you the formation? Reporting to the president, Chu Hen taught us for an entire day. Not only did he give us the talisman array deployment scroll, he also let the three of us learn this talisman array. He said he would arrange it for you to break it. We couldn't find a reason to refuse, so. Speaking up to here, the three of them had a strange expression. Then, with a bang, the door of the pavilion was kicked open, and a slightly plump old man walked out with a straight face. This wild brat is too arrogant. He actually let the three of you arrange the formation for me to break? I really want to slap you guys to the sky. President, don't say any more. Do you think I don't know the standard of the three of you? How dare the three of you play with me with your level? This brat is simply too outrageous. In Xiao Yong's view, Chu Hen's behavior was completely mocking him. But these three good-for-nothings had really brought the formation back. But President, Chu Hen looks very sincere. He doesn't seem to be joking at all. Wen Hong said, "Yeah, President, that brat Chu Hen is actually quite serious." Humph! Xiao Yong snorted in disdain. "You said earlier that you only used a day to master this formation?" Yuda nodded his head. "If the three of us worked together, we could barely do it. I'm laughing so hard that I peed myself. Do you think I don't know your capabilities? What the hell is this talisman formation that you guys mastered in a day? Is a child playing house with the mud in a puddle of pee?" The three of them were speechless. This old man was really merciless when he scolded them. "President, Chu Hen said that you have a time limit. He will give you at most one night to break the formation. Otherwise, you will lose," Zhu Tong said. Xiao Yong almost rolled his eyes in anger when he heard this. Chapter 604. The night flew by, and the sky above the imperial capital gradually turned bright. In the past few days, the entire Saint Star dynasty was in chaos. The newly formed Schools Alliance also quickly used the influence of the schools to suppress the unrest in the major regions. To the Saint Star dynasty, the higher-ranked martial houses had a high status in the eyes of the people. Many forces would give face to the schools and help the Schools Alliance to stabilize the situation in the major regions of the dynasty. The Scribe Guild. A cup of fragrant hot tea accompanied by a few plates of exquisite pastries was a delightful experience. In the quiet pavilion in the inner courtyard, Yuda, Wen Hong and Zhu Tong waited for the entire night. It's almost dawn, but there's still no news from the president. Could it be that he's really stumped by Chu Hen's formation? Wen Hong took a sip of the hot tea and a hint of confusion flashed in her eyes. Yuda slightly narrowed his eyes and shook his head, indicating that he wasn't too sure either. To be honest, Chu Hen's array is much more exquisite than any of the talisman arrays that we've come into contact with before. Although it's only a spirit-level talisman array, there are quite a few runes that even we haven't seen before. I really don't know where he learned this profound talisman array from. Zhu Tong nodded in agreement. This man is really not an ordinary person. I really hope that the president won't be so stubborn this time. Chu Hen has a good character and is a gentleman worth befriending. Forget it. It's not like you don't know the president's character. He's an old antique, Wen Hong said. Wait. Yuda suddenly thought of something. He stared at the two of them and said, Did you guys remind the president that if he hasn't found a way to break the formation by dawn, the talisman formation will explode? Wen Hong and Zhu Tong were stunned when they heard this. They had a strange expression on their faces. Before the two of them could answer, a loud explosion suddenly came from the backyard without any warning. The ground trembled and the building shook. Then, a thick cloud of dust rose from the back and rushed into the sky. In an instant, an ominous premonition surged in the hearts of the three of them. Yuda swallowed his saliva and said, Just now, that sound came from the president's side? Yes, I think so. Wen Hong stammered. Holy shit, we're dead. Damn it, I'm going to be scolded by this old man. Zhu Tong almost flipped the table. Without another word, the three of them hurriedly dashed toward the magnificent courtyard in the backyard. Then, a chaotic scene appeared in front of them. A huge crater was formed on the ground by the violent force, and in the middle of the crater sat an old man in ragged clothes. His hair was like a chicken's nest, and his face was dark. Yuda and the other two braced themselves and walked over. P-Guild leader, are you alright? Xiao Yong raised his head blankly. He looked like he wanted to skin the three of them alive. He gritted his teeth and said angrily, That bastard dared to trick me! Cough cough, guild leader. Yuda was forcefully pushed to the front by the two people behind him to explain. Actually, Chu Hen told us yesterday that if you didn't break the array by dawn, it would explode. Last night we saw that you were full of confidence and thought that it would be a piece of cake for you, so we didn't tell you. Xiao Yong's eyes twitched. You three traitors! How dare you get outsiders to mess with me? No, guild leader, you've misunderstood. The three of us are always on your side. Yuda said. Yes, we're on your side. Zhu Tong added. It's just that we didn't expect Chu Hen to be so cunning. We don't know where he got a formation that even you, the president, couldn't break. We were too careless. Humph. Xiao Yong's eyes narrowed. That little bastard does have some tricks up his sleeves. This formation is actually quite ordinary, but there are a few runes inside that are rather novel. I was trying to understand those runes, so I lost track of time. Huh! The three of them were stunned. From his tone, it seemed that Xiao Yong was actually able to break the array, but because he wanted to study those strange runes, he ended up like this. But thinking about it, this was indeed in line with Xiao Yong's personality. Guild leader, since you're able to break this array, let's go tell Chu Hen that he lost and don't bother you anymore. Wen Hong said. Xiao Yong hesitated for a moment before he stood up from the ground and dusted himself. That bastard tricked me. If I don't pay him back, where would my face be? The three of you go find him now and set up a whirlwind blade array for him to break. What? The three of their expressions changed slightly. Big U frowned and said, Guild leader, this isn't good, right? The whirlwind blade array is one of the top 3 arrays in our guild. Even if the 3 of us join forces to set it up, the success rate is less than 50%. If we can't set it up, it won't be embarrassing. It's you who will be embarrassing. What does it have to do with me? The corners of their eyes twitched, and black lines appeared on their foreheads. If you can't set up this array, then don't come back. Xiao Yong snorted coldly and continued, similarly, give that bastard 1 night to break the array. This? Fine. The 3 of them couldn't refuse and could only grit their teeth and agree. At the same time, they secretly thought that this job was really not easy. After that, Big U and the other 2 left the guild and headed towards Tensei Prefecture. Xiao Yong didn't immediately wash the dust on his body or change his clothes. Instead, he paced back and forth in the courtyard and pondered. It's really strange. How can those 2 runes be compatible with the violent rune? I can't figure it out, I really can't figure it out. Also, what's with the 3 Kun runes? I've never seen them before. What a pity, what a pity. If only I had more time. Evening. Rune Masters Guild. Why are the three of you back? Don't tell me you really can't set up the whirlwind blade array? What do I need the three of you for? Can't you even do such a small thing? Scram, scram, scram. Go back and copy the spiritual rune book 100 times. Qiao Yong pointed at Big Yu, Wen Hong and Zhu Tong, who had just returned, and scolded them. Guild leader, can you let us finish? Big Yu was so depressed that he wanted to cry but had no tears. I'll give you to the count of 3, 1, 2. We've successfully set up the whirlwind blade array. Before the word 3 could be finished, Yuda had already finished his sentence at the fastest speed in his entire life. Xiao Yong's eyes lit up and immediately changed into a smile. Hee, not bad, not bad. At least I didn't waste my time doting on the three of you. Hee. How was it? Did that brat, Chu Hen, cry for his parents after being tortured in the talisman formation? The three of them looked at each other with a strange expression on their faces. After a while, under Qiao Yong's gaze that was filled with anticipation, Zhu Tong finally answered. Chu Hen used the time it took to drink a cup of tea to break the formation. The moment the words left his mouth, Qiao Yong staggered and almost fell to the ground. The smile on his face immediately froze. Then, he narrowed his eyes and asked tentatively, "Tell me honestly, how much did you take from that guy? That's why you told him the method to break the whirlwind blade array?" I say, President, don't blame everything on us. From start to finish, we spent 4 hours to set up the talisman formation. During this period of time, other than the three of us, there was no one else around. After the formation was set up, Chu Hen came over to break it. Big Yu said innocently. Xiao Yong was silent. Was Chu Hen really that capable? In his opinion, there was no one in the entire Saint Star dynasty who had more knowledge of talisman arts than him. Even Zhen Danxian did not know as much as him. However, Chu Hen, a junior in his 20s, had not only broken his talisman formation, but had also mastered a talisman art that he had never seen before. It was truly unbelievable. Could it be that there was an expert behind him? What are the three of you still doing here? Get lost. Qiao Yong scolded. Guild leader, there's still something we haven't finished. Then why don't you hurry up and leave it for your qi refinement technique? Wen Hong curled her lips, then stepped forward and said, Chu Hen gave me a type of pill refining rune, and told me to exchange pointers with you on pill refining techniques. Hearing this, Xiao Yong immediately started to glare at her. If guild leader is unwilling, we'll leave now. Wen Hong had a bad feeling and quickly turned to escape. Yuda and Zhu Tong did not say a word as they followed behind. However, before they could take 2 steps, Xiao Yong scolded, "Come back!" The three of them shuddered and turned back shakily. What pill? Xiao Yong tried to calm himself down. Earth chant pill. Wen Hong replied. Humph. Xiao Yong scolded with a look of disdain. Little Hong, can you tell me what grade of pill is the earth chant pill? Spiritual grade. Then can you tell me, what's your cultivation level? 9th grade advanced rune master. Xiao Yong's attitude changed and he immediately roared, Then why are you refining the pill? Is your head filled with shit? However, Wen Hong's face was filled with determination. She replied solemnly, Guild leader, I'm willing to try. Approximately 6 hours later. In the courtyard, there were 2 cauldrons that had yet to cool down. In the middle of the cauldrons, there was a long table. The few of them sat on both sides of the long table. Xiao Yong stared at the 2 round pills on the long table. Both pills were purple in color, but the one on the left was obviously darker. The air was filled with bursts of penetrating medicinal fragrance. Circles of gauze-like golden light and shadows were floating around the 2 pills, and obscure energy fluctuations were being emitted from them,